take your positions, please. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We apologize for the delay that we've had this morning. We did have some trouble with the YouTube stream, and it was no fault of the city, but we are back up and running, and so we're going to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, due to COVID-19, the Committee of Adjustment public hearings are being conducted virtually by electronic means through WebEx webinar, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. Participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx webinar, which is moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch it on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting via their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone, and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All participants will automatically be muted upon entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by city staff, one person at a time. We ask that you also mute all your devices until you are called upon to speak. Please only use one device at a time, as using any additional devices can cause static noise, which will interfere with the audio of this hearing. To ensure further audio clarity, we also ask that you do not use the speakerphone function of your telephones. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelist when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time, and all other times your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Members of the public and applicants are not allowed to use the share screen option or any other panelist controls during a video appearance. City staff will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. For all those who are waiting online, please ensure that you have called in with the phone number that you were originally registered with. If you call in with a different number, you will not be able to speak on the item. We are participating in this public hearing today online from the North York Civic Center in Council Chambers. We would like to begin this meeting with an acknowledgement that Indigenous communities have been part of this land and this area's history since time immemorial. We would like to acknowledge this land on which we reside and work with gratitude and respect. It is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and we are encouraged to reflect upon our commitments both collectively and individually in taking steps towards meaningful reconciliation with Indigenous communities. Now, in accordance with Section 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is now called to order. My name is Nadini Sankar Peralta, and I will chair today's meeting. Joining us on the panel today are our astute members, Member Nazila Atarodi West, Paul Kidd, Giuseppe Bartolo, and Natasha Manning. City staff are also present, our Deputy Secretary Treasurer Simon Lamb, and some very hardworking city staff, Alex Chu, Sam Mozayani, Giovanna Rizzio, and Irving Bridgeraj, as well as our IT staff, Patrick, on call to help us out today. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that applies to property permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. Receiving a copy of the decision of the committee. Anyone attending today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address, because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body, better known as the TLAB, will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Lands Tribunal. However, the provincial government recently amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions as of November 28, 2022. Only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies as those are identified in the Planning Act are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appealed instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. The hearing procedures are as follows. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair if they still wish to speak on the item. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, is given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will ask you to summarize your remarks when you are reaching the 5-minute mark without exception. When addressing the committee, please state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks only to the matters described in the application. The applicant or agent proceeds first and will make their presentation to the committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. To ensure that the revised application is accurate and all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes, the committee may decide to defer the application if it is substantially revised. Then individuals, either in support or in opposition of the application, will be invited to speak. If more than one individual wishes to speak to the application, we please ask that you try not to repeat the points already made by others. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker and after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent has an opportunity to rebut those issues that were raised by the previous speakers within a 5-minute time frame. This will mark the end of the discussion on the item. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. No one else except committee members are allowed to speak at that time. In today's morning session, I'm going to begin by asking members if there's a conflict of interest to declare. None noted. I have none as well. And I will turn it over to our Deputy Secretary Treasurer, noting that there are some minutes to confirm.
There are. You have them before you. We'll start with 2022. So it was March 24, 2022. Ms. Adderodi, Ms. Manning, and Mr. Bartolo were present.
Can I get a motion on to approve those minutes from any of those members? Motion from Member Adderodi, seconded by Member Manning, and those minutes have passed.
Thank you very much. Second set, April 14th, 2022, and the members present were Member Sankar and Member Kidd.
Okay, I'll motion to approve those minutes, and seconded by Member Kidd, and those minutes have been adopted.
Thank you very much. Third set is April 13th, 2023. Member Sankar, Member Manning, Member Bartolo, and Member Adderodi were present.
Okay, can I get a motion, members, Motion from Member Attarodi to approve the minutes, seconded by Member Bartolo, and those minutes have passed.
Thank you very much. Last set of minutes, May 11th, 2023. Member Sankar, Member Bartolo, and Member Kidd were present.
Okay. Can I get a motion for those minutes? Member Kidd or Bartolo? Okay. Motion by Member Bartolo to approve those minutes, seconded by Member Kidd, and those minutes have been adopted. Thank you very much. Mr. Secretary, Deputy Secretary Treasurer, are there any deferrals to note for this morning's session?
There are. Well, note first, there are no files to close.
Okay.
This morning, we have item number 6, 23 Addison Crescent.
Okay. Let's look at item number 6, 23 Addison Crescent. And the member that the agent I have listed is in Ali Malek Zadeh. Mr. Malek Zadeh, are you there?
Ali, you've been unmuted.
Good morning, Madam Chair and member of the committee. My name is Ali Malikzadeh, and I'm representing this application on behalf of the owner.
Can you just state your address for our records, please?
236 Les Mills Road,
Okay.
Toronto.
Thank you so much. And if you can share with us, why do you want this item deferred?
We had discussion with the planning staff, and they have two concern, which is the main one was the front setback variance, and due to the timing, we can modify the drawing to improve that variance, but we need sometimes in order to have a file to be reviewed by the zoning examiner and planner to satisfy with our proposal. So that's why we just need sometimes to prepare the drawing with all the document to going back to the committee for that. But the rest was supported by the staff.
Okay, thank you. Members, there's no one else to speak to this application. Do you have any questions of the agent here today? Yes, Member Kidd, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to bring to the attention of the speaker there. There is a request for a deferral from the urban forestry that he may want to discuss with them in addition to talking to the planning staff.
Very good point, Member Kidd. As not just planning staff, but also forestry is requesting a deferral, and likely you should get in touch with them. If there are no other questions, can I get a motion on this deferral, please? Member Kidd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to put forward a motion to defer this application sine die to allow the applicant time to discuss his application with planning staff and urban forestry.
Okay, motion from Member Kidd to defer the application sine die, seconded by Member Bartolo seconds this motion. All those in favor? Sir, your application has been deferred sine die. Okay,
Thank you so much.
Deputy, there's no other deferrals to note?
Not in the morning section.
Okay, thank you so much. So everyone, if I'd like to turn your attention to item number 1 on the agenda. And this item is number 111 Strathallan Boulevard. Please note that this is a proposal to construct a new dwelling. There is about 8 variances noted on this application. There is a staff report of May 24th with conditions to variance number 6. And there's 3 letters of objection, but some letters of support. And there are a couple people that are here to oppose this application. So let's get the agent out David Bronskill, are you there?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. If you could state your name and address for our records.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The name's David Bronskill, Bronskill, Goodman's LLP, 333 Bay Street, Suite 3400 in Toronto. And as you noted, Madam Chair, here as agent for the applicant.
Great, thank you. Would you mind giving us a presentation on the merits of your application? And then we'll get on to listening to what other members in the community have to say.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will start just quickly with the staff report. We are aware of the a staff report that had been discussed as between our client's architect and staff in advance, and the plans dated May 26, 2023 do have the stairs removed, so that is a condition that is acceptable to our client, and that would secure the overall support of city staff for the variances that are before you. In terms of the presentation, I'm actually going to ask if staff could start in the applicant's materials actually closer to the end, if they don't mind. And in particular, I'm going to start with the rendering and then the elevation, because it's just important to understand one of the variances related to the front yard setback that I will get to on the site plan. So if the committee can see here in this rendering, on the ground floor at the front, the windows, the door, and the driveway all are recessed. That is, there are architectural design elements to the proposal that has a recess for the garage, a recess for the front door there, and even a recess for the windows. It means that porch is covered. It means there's a slight overhang above the integral garage. That becomes relevant to the front yard setback that I will show you on the site plan. But the required front yard setback is met to the door of the garage. And again, I'll show that to you on the plans. It's complied with to the door, the front door. It's just not complied with for these architectural projections, which have the depth of the wall in them. And so I will show that to the committee when I get to the site plan. The other thing, just very quickly, if staff could go to the next page, page 6, I also want to note there is no height variance. And so you can see for the committee's perspective, it's a house that meets height under the zoning bylaw, sloped roof coming up to a flat portion of the roof, dormers on the front. This will be relevant when I speak to the committee just about the FSI and the quote unquote number, including some space in that third floor area behind the dormers. If staff could go back to page 3, and that's the colored site plan with my thanks. As the committee is well aware, we often put these together with some colors so that you can see the different elements, the dashed green line being the existing house. Important here, just from my submission for the committee's perspective, is the dashed red outline that you can see there. That's the permitted house outline in accordance with the different setbacks that would apply today. And as you can see, the house largely complies with those setbacks. The rear projection slightly longer, but not quite as wide. There are a couple of small side yard setbacks being requested. And at the front, where you can see that red dashed line, remember when I spoke to you about the front door of the garage, the front door itself, and the windows, that's that red line. And you can see how in this site plan, those what I called architectural design details, or the width of the walls, the projections, that's what makes up the projection for the front yard setback. But otherwise, the house itself falls in line with the red line of the required front yard setback. Length and depth for the committee, just so it's aware, because there is a variance there to go to 22.68 for the length of the dwelling and depth to 21.62. It's measured from the front yard setback, but it goes all the way to the excavated portion of the covered rear terrace. If staff don't mind just scrolling up a little bit, that I can show you the terminus of that arrow. There it is there. So the actual house itself largely complies with the length and depth provisions of the bylaw. In fact, the main portions of the house, as you can see, meet the 17 meters. There's a slight additional length to the one-story projection at the back. Finally, Madam Chair, I would just note then in terms of the FSI, and this goes to the first page, the massing is what the massing is. I'm going to just suggest to the committee. Sorry, that's the one. Thank you, staff. Is what it is. You'll note that if it's just the ground and second floor, it's a 72.26 number. By using the space that's
Okay,
behind the
you're out
dormers
of
in that third
time,
floor.
but I will.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll stop there.
Yeah, I'll ask you to stop, and let me just double check if members, do you have any questions of Mr. Bronskill at this time? There being none, we'll give you a chance to speak further later, but we do have someone to speak to this application, at least 4 people. Let's begin with a Kevin Miller. Mr. Miller, are you there?
Kevin, you've been on.
Yeah, if you can state your name and address for our records, please.
Sure. I'm speaking on behalf of both Kevin Miller, Kevin Millar, and Katerina Pavensky, Katerina Pavenski. We are both the owners at 113 STRATHALLAN Boulevard, which resides directly to the west of this property.
Yes.
We have concerns specifically with 3 of the variances.
Please proceed.
The
yes.
first variance that we, sorry?
Yeah, please continue. Go ahead.
Thank you. So the concern we have is about variance number 2. It's around the setback. And within this row of houses that exist along the south side of STRATHALLAN, the proposed setback materially impacts the amount of sunlight and the view that is currently enjoyed by our household. Our windows for our master primary bedroom face directly east. And by having that setback, it produces a wall that directly comes in front of us. As well, the proposed setback is not in line with what other houses have on that side of the street. I understand about the request about the architectural piece, but irrespective of the fact that the door in the driveway or the door in the garage door are set back, those pieces of house will project beyond that. And it does materially take away from our ability to have sunlight which rises in the east that cascades into our home. And so for that variance, we have challenges. Also variance number 5, it's around the portion of the lot that's being used for the home, the covered terrace and the existing pool. And each year on the south side of STRATHALLAN, water pools in our backyards after heavy rains. And the lawns and the gardens that we have are what allow the water to be absorbed slowly over the following days. With so much of the lot, over 83% of that allowance being used for the house and those elements, with impermeable material, there's concern that we're going to have increased flooding that comes along with that. The last piece that I have is around variance number 6, and that's the fact that our home shares a driveway with 111 STRATHALLAN currently. Both homes use a portion of each other's driveway to ensure navigation is easier. And the submitted variance doesn't account for a chimney that sticks out beyond the measurements that are part of that document, which provides an additional 1 foot towards the property line. And so with a narrow driveway that extends a much, much longer home, the home is almost 23 meters along the west side, this is going to impact the ability to remove snow. There'll be nowhere to put snow along that trajectory. Will have to be moved all the way to the front or all the way to the very backyards of the property. Whereas right now, that shared driveway, we have the ability with both properties to be able to push the snow to either side. It also impacts the ability to make navigating the driveway more difficult. Should this move ahead, variance number 8, I support, because currently with that shared driveway, we have a wider ability to be able to navigate, and currently the neighbors actually use our driveway as they navigate up and down because of the current width of it. So I support the fact that in variance number 8, it allows for the fact that with an integrated driveway, we're asking for having that portion to the west side of the property to be paved so that it will permit better use of being able to even navigate the driveway as it stands. So those are my concerns or variances that represent 113 Strathallan.
Okay, thank you so much. Members, do you have any questions? Okay, there being none, let's move on to the next speaker, and that is a George and Diane Baptist. Are you there?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Can you state your name and address for our records, please?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is George Baptist. I'm here with my wife, Diane Baptist. We reside at 109 Strathallan Boulevard, which is one house east of 111 Strathallan. In essence, we object to three variances. They cover these main themes. The first is water runoff and lack of green space and too much hard space. The second is front line of sight. And the third is back privacy with light impacting the enjoyment of our backyard. In looking at the variances, variance number 2, which is a minimum required front yard setback, is 7.25 meters. The proposed front yard setback is 6.17. We're against this proposed variance of the front setback. The variance will be out of character of the adjacent houses that have followed the allowable setback. The front of the house will stick out from the aligned neighborhood houses, providing an inconsistent sight line and eliminating the front yard character on our side of Strathallan in the neighborhood. So although, as previously mentioned, the garage and the front door have met requirements, the overhang and the cover will stand out from the houses on that side. Looking at variance number 5, the permitted maximum floor space is 0.35, requested 0.833. Firstly, this house does not fit into the present neighborhood and block footprint. It's far too large. What will happen with a house of this size is that we'll have water runoff and snow runoff. There is an underground stream that flows from west to east that the previous homeowner has mentioned. This gets saturated with water on rainfall. A house of this size without appropriate green space won't be able to absorb this water runoff, which can create damage and flooding on our house. The flow of water goes from west to east and will directly impact us. The size of the house as well impacts variance number 7, where the east side, they're asking for a variance of 1.19 versus allowable of 1.5 meters on the east side of the house. We object to this variance request from the point of view that this will not provide adequate runoff. A house of this size will have 3 downspouts coming from the east side of the house. With this variance, there will be no place for the water runoff. So this could create flooding onto our house as well. We own the driveway on the east side, which butts up against 111 Strathallan. This could cause ice from water runoff in the spring and late fall, which could be a danger. Not only that, but there could be falling snow that could impact our driveway and our ability to use our driveway. So
I'll ask you to summarize, please. Yeah, please summarize.
Summarize is we object to 3 variances, number 2, number 5, number 7. We feel the house is far too large at 0.85 versus a permissible 0.35. And we wish that those variances not be allowed. Number 2, number 5, and number 7. Thank you. They should be at the permissible level, not at the variance level.
Okay, thank you so much. And that's from the Baptist family. Members, do you have any questions? None at this time. Okay, so let's move on then to the next speaker, and that's a Reshma Somani and a Trevor Radomski. Is Reshma Somani there, or Trevor Radomski?
I'm here. I'm here.
Yes, great.
Yeah,
If you
my
can
name's
state your
Trevor.
name and address for our records.
Yep, Trevor Radomski. My address is 107 Strathallan.
Great. Please share with us your thoughts.
Of George, Diane. The only comments I have is I agree. I am in agreement with George and Diane's comments, and I share with him I guess 2, 5, and is it 2, 5, and 8?
Yes, I believe that they've indicated that as part of the
Yeah,
concerns.
I'm in agreement with their comments, so that's really the only thing I have to say.
Okay, appreciate that. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Radomski? Okay, there being none, and I think that's it for our list of speakers. Let's bring back, yes, but she's been covered by the first one. Yeah. So we are moving back to Mr. Bronskill. Are you there? We'll give
Yes,
you-
Madam Chair,
yeah,
thank you.
5 minutes to provide a rebuttal for what you've heard today.
Madam Chair, one thing before I do that, and I apologize to the committee, I should have formally indicated in accordance with the staff report, and this is noted in our presentation, that variance 7 that relates to the stairs should be removed.
Okay.
And I apologize. I should have, in accepting the city staff report, I should have outlined at the start that that variance would no longer be required and should be removed.
Okay, noted. Well noted. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In terms of responses, if staff could put up that colored site plan again, there seem to be some concerns about green space and drainage. I would note that there are not landscaping variances before the committee as part of the proposal. And in fact, there's substantial landscaping on the properties you can see, both in the front yard, on the east side yard next to 109, coming to the rear around the pool, a portion of the west side yard setback coming up. And then there is a portion of that west side yard setback that is a paved walkway. But there are no landscaping variances, and there's lots of green space to ensure that stormwater is appropriately absorbed and contained on the site. In terms of the driveway, Madam Chair, all I can say is our client's proposing an integral garage at the front with a driveway. My understanding is that while there is a shared driveway today, there aren't easements, so there is no right for either client to be on each other's property. As you note, the driveway my client's proposing is entirely contained on their property. And so in terms of the side yard setback, I would have a different argument to be making to you if we were encroaching into some type of easement, which would be frankly inappropriate. That is not being done here. And in fact, regardless of the side yard setback, either property owner would have the right to fence in that area between the properties. That owner does have, as I look at the site plan, 2.69 at a pinch point to get past their house to a garage they have in the rear. But that's an existing condition that isn't reliant upon any easements across my client's property and is frankly not impacted by the proposal that's before you. In terms of the front yard setback and notions of sun and loss of light, if staff are able to, in the plans, I don't know if they have them handy, and they're the ones that would be dated May 29th because they're submitted without the stairs, and there are side elevations, the east or west elevation in that document might just be helpful for the committee. That would be fine. You can see at the front the staggering of the building and then the sloped roof. So in terms of morning light in an east sun, I'm going to say something obvious, and I don't intend to be frivolous when I say that. The sun is in the sky. And so the stepping back of the upper levels and the sloping of the roof with the dormers will mean that the front yard setback with the driveway and front door overhangs aren't going to impact sunlight in the morning on an adjacent neighbor. And then if you look at the rear, this elevation or the east elevation, show it, sorry, to staff, just the east or west elevation are fine. You'll be able to note again that there's the 1-story portion, then the 2, and then the slope 3rd story, all in accordance, frankly, with the 17 meters of a 2nd floor, 3rd floor sloped back. Again, afternoon light will not be any different, frankly, than an as of right, as the sun moves into the western portion of the sky and the roof has been sloped at the rear. So I don't think those concerns as expressed are ultimately valid. Final thing, Madam Chair, as my clock ticks, I'm just going to reiterate again, what's being used, if you look at that elevation, is that 3rd floor space within the sloped roof. It's permitted by the height. There are dormers there. That additional GFA represents the move from 72.26 to 83.29. It's about 69 square meters, and it's massing that's there, whether or not the committee approves the number that's before you. We don't think there's any additional impact. And with the staff report supporting this, we'd urge the committee to approve it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you so much. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Bronskill? Okay, there being none, can I get a motion on this application? Okay, Member Bartolo, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, in reviewing the documents and hearing both sides of the applicant and the neighbors here today, I'm inclined to agree with the comments in the staff report and with the applicant. I do think it's in keeping with the neighborhood. I don't think it's going to have a large principal impact on the streetscape. And in kind of reflecting on the comments on drainage and water, those comments or those issues will be dealt with by the building department, and there's no green space or lot coverage issues. And the as of right condition is quite similar to what's being proposed. Therefore, I'll put forward a motion to approve this application subject to the following revisions: that item number 7 or variance number 7 be removed.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Can I get someone to second Member Bartolo's motion to approve with those conditions? Number 7, item number 7, variance number 7 being removed. Yeah. Member Attarodi seconds this. All those in favor? Right, unanimously approved with those conditions. Thank you, Mr. Bronskill. Members, let's turn
Thank you, panel.
Let's turn your attention over to item number 2 and 3. It's the same agent, so we'll handle those separately, but in that succession. Richard Idels for number 130. So number 20, Wasdale Crescent. Mr. Idels, are you there?
Richard, you've been unmuted.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, if you could state your name and address.
Richard Idels, 80 North Meadow Crescent, Ontario, Thornhill, Ontario, L4J 3B1.
Yes. Thank you so much. Mr. Idels, we've got an application here. Members, just to let you know, it's to propose a proposal to construct a one-story garden suite. There is one variance noted on file. There are a couple of folks here to speak to this application. So, Mr. Idels, why don't you provide a brief presentation on this, the merits of your application before we hear from the area residents?
Okay, we are proposing this one-story garden suite, and in designing it, we followed very carefully all of the parameters, and there are quite a lot of them. And there is one variance. I'll explain that in a minute. And of course, it went through the scrutiny of zoning, which all applications do, and they agreed with us that there is one variance. That variance is that we're adding basement space for for storage and for mechanical, but that basement space does not affect any of the parameters that are mandated by what a garden suite is supposed to be. I do appreciate their concern, the neighbors. I can understand, but I just want them to know that we did go through the process. It's not any higher, any bigger, anything else because of the basement space. I just want to point out that one of the neighbors kindly went through it himself, but I think that he's on 22. I believe that could be one of the speakers, that actually we would be allowed to set back less than we are. So we actually are a little bit further away. We would be allowed to set back 1.07 meters. We're setting back 1.22 meters, which is allowed. Everything there is allowed. And really, that's all I have to say. We're hopefully, helping Ontario in its, in its quest to add more, secondary units. And this is one of the ways of doing it. And we're very happy and excited to be able to do this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Idels? Yes, Member Kidd, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Idels, I just wasn't clear from your presentation. Are you saying that the basement space is included in the floor area calculation?
Yeah, yes, yeah. If there is a basement, it has to be included in the floor area.
I see. So that the footprint of the building is roughly complies with the 60 square meters.
Yeah, exactly complies. Just a little bit less than 60 square meters.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? There being none, let's move on to the first speaker noted on the file, and that's a Leslie T.
Madam Chair, Leslie is not on the call, and I've tried to reach out, and they have not picked up the phone.
Okay, let's then move on to Joe Conforti.
Yeah, it's done.
Yeah, Mr. Conforti, if you can state your name and address for our records, please.
Joe Conforti. I live at 86 Chatham Drive in Toronto, M4R1R7, with my father, Carlos Conforti. We own 22 Wasdale Crescent.
Thank you. If you can share with us your concerns.
I know this is a new type of building, and so for that reason, I guess it's out of character for the neighborhood. So I'm not going to make that kind of comment, except that I'd find it unusual that it's actually a home built in a backyard beside the backyard that I have for my tenants, and they use it for their enjoyment and barbecues, picnics, hanging. It basically then creates a house beside their backyard. If it's permitted, it's permitted. It's something that my father and I would then be able to do as well. My comment is more twofold. One, to ensure that the side setback is is at least accurate. I want to avoid a tunnel effect, especially if I put up a similar unit, you're going to have two buildings beside another building with a much smaller backyard. So that's one point. So I thought having a 1.5 meter setback as opposed to the 1.2 meter setback was appropriate. And second, and I can't tell from the drawings submitted, the footprint is just under the 60 meters. I note that the requirement for a garden suite is that it's the smaller of 60 meters or 40% of the rear portion of the yard. I can't by myself figure out whether it's at the 40% mark or not, and what's included there, because there's a bit of a lane at the back as well, and so that's something for the technician to deal with. But whatever is there is going to be parallel on my side, so that's the only reason I'm raising it. Those are my submissions.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Conforti? Okay, there being none, let's just go back again. Were you able to get Ms. T back on the line? Okay, so what I'll do is we've tried a couple of times. We will cross that one off the list. Let's go back to Mr. Idels. Mr. Idels, you've heard what Mr. Conforti had to say. Share with us, your rebuttal. You've got 5 minutes.
I won't take 5 minutes. It's simply, we have a brand new survey which you have to have when you go to zoning. And we all assume surveys are correct. And the area of the lot is also confirmed by the surveyor. We don't do it ourselves, so we've never had a problem with doubting what the amount of space there is on the lot. And so I believe 100% that that's correct. I did mention the setback because I understand that Mr. Conforti was concerned about that. And I'll just say one more time, you would actually be allowed to go closer to the lot line, which we didn't do for other reasons. Right? The tunnel effect might be one reason, but many houses in Toronto have a 4-foot setback. We didn't want to go any less. Also, the OBC does not permit windows if it's any less than 4 feet. I've done houses for many years in Toronto, and there are many neighbors that have 8 feet in between them, each having 4 feet. And it's always, it's been permitted, and I've never heard that there's any sort of, that there's a wind or a tunnel effect or anything that's really of concern, especially on the garden suite, which is not the length of a normal house. It's, it's a 1 unit type of a thing, and it's 1 story. And it doesn't have a high roof, and that's also to protect the neighbor next door for site reasons and for wind reasons and all of that. So we followed very carefully everything that the city asked for, and the zoning department did agree, and except for this one variance that we're asking, and that's my rebuttal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members, do you have any other questions of Mr. Idels? If not, can I entertain a motion, please? Member Bartolo.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. I think this is actually a fairly straightforward application. I think it's keeping with the intent of the new rules and helping to provide some needed housing space. And I agree that the principal building is just under the 60 square meters. There are no issues with the setback. None of that has been flagged by the plans examiner. Therefore, I'll put forward a motion to approve this application.
Okay, motion from Member Bartolo to approve this application, seconded by Member Atarodi. All those in favor? And your application has been unanimously approved. Thank you, Mr. Idels. And we'll just move on, since you're the agent, for item number 3, which is 553 Coldstream Avenue. We'll continue with Mr. Idels for this application. And members, this is an application to construct a new dwelling. Please note that there's 9 variances. Please also note, members, while there's 12 letters of support, this application is subject to forestry, and there's a May 29th forestry report that recommends deferral. So, Mr. Idels, would you please provide a short presentation on the merits of this application, and please address specifically the deferral request from forestry?
Okay, I want to address that, the first thing, and that is David Bostek, who's the acting supervisor, tree protection and plan review for the urban forestry. We had a nice long talk for about a half an hour yesterday. He said, I can tell the committee, and will go in the minutes, in his words, that he is retracting that request for referral. He doesn't want to interrupt the process of the variances. We will be negotiating about the concern is a large tree that's out of the house. That we will, of course, continue to negotiate. A tree removal, which he knows, and we have an arborist, and everything's in place. He said, I can say in his name that please ignore his previous request for referral.
Okay. So even as we proceed, just to let you know, if that's the case and we proceed, members may end up still putting it subject to forestry, and that's something you can work out with the forestry department. But just to let you know.
Madam Chair, staff are currently in the process of pulling up the revised report containing the withdrawal for deferral. Okay, so while they're following up on that, why don't you, share with us any final comments on your application? There is no one else to speak to this application, and you've got 12 letters of support. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with committee members?
I would go through all of the points, but I'll pick the largest one. We believe that they're all minor. We did a lot of research on all of the variances. The ones that are perhaps the largest variances are, first of all, I would like to just on the length and the depth. That's 5 and 6. If the committee would look at the site plan, they would see that the houses on both sides are considerably longer than our proposal. The front of the house is, the setback is per when there's no variance there, so it's even with the front of the houses on either side. Actually, on one side, it's really the side of the house. That's one thing. And we also there's a number of in the 500 meter. When we do our due diligence, we always go at least 500 meters of decisions. And there are a number of decisions that were given similar lengths. And like I said, over here, we believe there's no impact on the neighborhood. We're already swallowed by the houses on both sides. In terms of while we're at the size of the house, number 9, we're asking for 40 in lieu of 35. So within 500 meters, we have counted 8 houses that were granted 40 or more. A couple of them were just under 40, and some were up to 44%. And also, the houses on both sides are older, so you don't find those decisions on the on the Committee of Adjustment website. But those houses are, if you looked on Google Map, you would see the widths are just about exactly the same, and it's much longer. Those houses seem to have an enormous amount of coverage. And like I said, we have how many houses? We have 8 houses that we counted within 500 meters that share that larger coverage. And also the height, we believe, is minor at 10.5 meters. The others we also believe are minor, unless the committee has other questions. That's what I would say at the moment.
Okay, thank you for that. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Idels?
Madam Chair?
Yeah, Member Manning?
No, I have no questions, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
I have Mr. David Bostock on the line who would like to address committee.
Yes, that's
He's the
great.
supervisor of forestry.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bostock, if you can just state your name again for our records. I know it's who you are, but just for our YouTube records, you know, your name and where you're calling us from.
Thank you. Through the chair, my name is David Bostock. I'm the supervisor of tree protection and plan review for North York District. And I would start by apologizing. I have a very weak audio connection, and I'm not able to hear the proceedings very clearly. But I do understand that I'm being asked to clarify the communications from forestry on this matter. Is that correct?
Yes, please. We do have a report, and we can hear you very well. We do have a report that states there is a deferral request from your department for this application. The applicant said that he had a lengthy conversation with you and that there was a change in that regard. We don't have the paperwork to show it, but would gladly hear. Oh, now they've pulled it up. So I guess maybe if you are able to reiterate for us, you know, the changes that have been made for this application, it would be really helpful for us in decision making.
Through the chair, thank you. Yes. So with reference to a memorandum provided by myself, dated June 2nd, it has been posted to the Application Information Center. It clarifies urban forestry's position with respect, or it's intended to clarify urban forestry's position with respect to our deferral recommendation for this proposal. At this time, and this is what we indicate in this memo, we do believe that deferral is the best option for the tree outcomes that we are seeking. However, we do respect the applicant's desire to not pursue deferral. And if that is the case, then urban forestry does not object to a decision being rendered today, so long as it is subject to the originally requested forestry condition that is communicated in our memo that relates to application submission. And so if the applicant declines to defer, we do not insist or demand that the committee defers the application. We are prepared to proceed, and the tree preservation issue can stand in this instance, not in every instance, but in this instance, the tree preservation issue can stand on its own and be dealt with through our application process after a committee of adjustment decision.
All right, that's clear to me. Members, as the applicant wishes to proceed, forestry has no concerns about them proceeding so long as it is subject to the original, forestry application. And do you have any questions of Mr. Bostock at this time before we move into motion? Well, thank you very much, Mr. Bostock, for that information. And now I'll take it back to committee members. Member Manning with a motion.
Through you, Madam Chair, I think these variances are minor. I agree with the applicant. So I'd like to make a motion to approve this application subject to the conditions of forestry.
Okay, Member Manning with a motion to approve and subject to the original conditions of forestry. Someone to second that motion? Seconded by Member Bartolo. All those in favor? Right, unanimously approved with those conditions. Thank you, Mr. Idels. Now, members, I'd like to turn your attention over to, we do have an agent, Mr. Ali Shakiri, who has a couple of applications, and he has a bit of an urgent matter in terms of having to be somewhere at the very same time. We're going to move his applications up to be heard a little bit earlier, and that is application number 15. And application number 16. So that is, let's begin with 39 Greengate Road. Mr. Shakiri, are you there?
Hello, good morning. Ali Shakeri, 326 Shepherd Avenue East. I hope you can hear me.
Yes. And perhaps if you can provide just an explanation of why we move this up for you, just and for the benefit of others who might be listening in and had theirs in order.
Madam Chair, I would
Yes.
like to note that the other registered speaker is not on the call for this application.
Yes, we're not at the speaker list yet. I'm just asking the agent why he requested to have this brought up earlier, just for our records.
Yes, Madam Chair, it's due to the medical appointment that I have. However, if the other registered speakers are not online, I don't think if it's fair. I wish to proceed with this, and I truly appreciate that you accepted my request, but I think it's unfair to proceed if the registered speakers are not online. And I can cancel my medical. I can cancel my medical appointment, but I cannot really deny the right that other people want to speak, and they might not be here at this time.
Okay, if you don't mind, if you give us one moment, we are just trying to contact them right now just to make sure that it's either they really didn't want to speak or, what the status is. In the meantime, I will ask city staff, what about item number 16? Are the two registered speakers that were noted for that application on the line? For item number 16, which is 36 Cheltenham Avenue. Three registered speakers. Okay, so what we'll do, Mr. Shakiri, is if we could we're just trying to contact the speakers for both your items, just to make sure that we're doing our due diligence. In the meantime, members, let's turn our attention over, and we'll come back to Mr. Shakiri. Let's turn our attention to item number 4. Item number 4 is 39 Chudleigh Avenue. And the agent on this file is Noshin Mazafari. Noshin Mazafari, are you there?
Madam Chair, yes. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nushin Mozaffari from Hyphen Studio, representing my client owner of 39 Chudleigh.
That's great. And this is a proposal to construct a new 2-story detached home, integral garage. There are 7 variances noted on file here. We have 4 letters of objection, and there's also a forestry report that's noted. So if you can, I'm seeing here that there is someone else to speak to this application. Are you able to provide us a brief presentation on this matter?
Yes, sure. As you can see, we are asking for 7 variances here. In summary, variance number 1 and 4 are regarding to the rear deck. One is for the projection of the deck, and the actual projection is not a variance if the deck was lower. And variance number 4 is the encroachment of the deck into the rear setback. Again, it's the encroachment is less than 2.5 meter, which is allowed, and the deck is aligned with the building itself and has 4-foot setback to the east side lot line. Variance number 2 is the for the west side setback. We are asking for 0.6 meter instead of 1.2 meter. And variance number 3, we are asking for FSI. Number 5 and 6 are for the eaves protection, eaves setback on both sides. The projection of the eaves is not more than load, and the roof itself, as dimensioned on the roof plan, has 0.3 meter setback from both side lot lines. This number that the examiner is considering is to the gutter, and the roof itself has enough setback. And the last variance is for the width of the bay window to be 40% instead of 30% allowed. I believe this is a very straightforward application, and it meets the 4 tests, and we are here today seeking your approval.
All right. I appreciate that. Members, do you have any questions of Ms. Mazafari? Yes, Mr. Kidd, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Variance number 2 and 3 seem large to me. The west side side yard setback and the proposed floor index. Perhaps the agent can explain how she feels that these are appropriate for the for this neighborhood.
Yeah, for the side setback, as you see, there is a big tree, city-owned tree at the front, and we have tried to push the building to the west side to be able to fit the garage and driveway, just passing beside that tree and keeping that tree. And also there is a hydrophone there, and that's why we are asking for this side setback variance. Also, the neighboring property, it's a corner lot, so this setback on that side has the minimum impact on that property, considering all sides of the neighboring property. The setback on the east side is not a variance and is complying with the bylaw. And for the FSI, the number we are proposing is compatible with other approved cases in the neighborhood and even on the same street. For example, 79 Chudleigh is approved for 73% of FSI. 86 Chudleigh is approved for 70% of FSI. And the planner of the case is supporting this application because we are generally within the allowed building envelope. We are not asking for any length, front yard, rear yard, or side setback on the east side. Our height and wall height is even less than allowed. Each one are 0.4 meters less than allowed height for total height and wall height. So the FSI is just the number for the area, while the building mass is inside the allowed building envelope, except the west side.
Thank you.
Any other questions, members? If not, we've got a long list of Member Bartolo, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. I think the applicant had mentioned that they had to move, or some of the setbacks were related to an existing hydro pole, and that was one of the reasons for justifications for it. I don't think there is one. There's not one on the survey that I'm seeing. So if you can elaborate on that.
If you go back to the site plan, please. There is a, oh, sorry, that's a big tree there. Since there is a note for hydropole, I just read the same thing, but that's just a tree, which is a city-owned
Could you ask them? Because then I could.
big tree, and we are trying to keep that. And as you see, the driveway, the proposed driveway at the front is basically the very minimum. Is basically the very minimum allowed width to just pass on the side of that of the protection zone of that city-owned tree.
Okay, yeah, I see the tree. So the pole is just an error. There's nothing to do with that.
Yeah, sorry for that.
Okay. Sorry about that. We were having a city discussion here, and I hadn't muted myself, so I apologize if that interrupted everyone. But let's move on then to the next speaker. If there's no other questions, then the first speaker that I'd like to call up is a Grant Chapman and Jacqueline Chapman. And because there's quite a number of speakers for this, I'll ask that those listening in, please note the points already made by other members to help us expediting with the hearing. We do want to ensure that you're not repeating points made already. So let's get a Grant Chapman and Jacqueline Chapman on.
Madam Chair, neither of them are on the call, and we've attempted to email and call them to reach out.
Okay, not a problem. If we haven't heard from them by the end, we will cross them off. Then let's move to the next member on the list. That's a David Perry and a Frida Perry.
David?
Well, are we muted or not?
Yes.
We've been unmuted, right?
You've been unmuted. If you could state your name and address for the records, please.
David Perry, 36 Chudleigh Avenue.
And who is going to speak on behalf of both of you? David, would it be you?
Dave.
Okay.
It'll be David.
No problem. So please go ahead and share with us your thoughts.
Well, my major concern is there's a significant amount of new concrete that's been added either through the porch or the proposed widening of the driveway on the front of the lot. And then there's a walkout in the back of the lot, again, presumably concrete. And the building itself, the house itself, is vastly increased in size over the original. And my concern is the runoff. For the downspouts on the back of the house, they've got to go under this wood deck, and it's like 15, 16 feet. And then you add the staircase, you're up to 19 feet. And if it's under a deck and in the winter and there's runoff, it's going to freeze. It's going to freeze under the deck, and there'll be real issues. Again, on the front, I don't know where they're going to throw the snow in the winter. And in the summer, I'm afraid that the water will either run back towards the house, because from this proposal, I think the parking is in the basement of the house. And just looking at the elevation for the walkout and the elevation for the front of the house, they've got to have a sloped driveway to get their cars into the basement. And I'm just wondering where this water is going to go.
Right. Members, do you have any questions of the agent? There being none, let's then move on to the next person's registered to speak, and that is Michael Connolly. Mr. Connolly, are you there?
Did you say Michael Connolly?
Connolly, yes, sorry. So
No
if
problem.
you could state your name and address for our records.
Sure. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. We are Michael Connolly and Ann Edwards, and we live at 41 Chudleigh Avenue, one house to the west of 39 Chudleigh.
Great, and if you can share with us your concerns.
I'm going to hand this over to my wife, Ann Edwards.
Okay.
We have, can you hear me okay?
Very well, please continue.
Okay, I'm just looking to the side of the camera because it's written here. We have concerns with items 2, 6, 1, and 3. Concerning item 2, changing the required minimum side setback from 1.2 meters or 4 feet to 0.61 meters or 2 feet. This is a problem for us. It will significantly reduce the space between our side walls and make it difficult for us to do maintenance and repair work to the foundation and wall on that side of our house. It will make it difficult to erect scaffolding, to safely set up a ladder for eaves trough repairs or electrical repairs. It will make snow removal difficult because there will be no place to put the snow. It will also make navigating from the front to the back of our property more difficult. This proposed variance would also make it difficult for us to get large furniture and appliances into and out of our basement. Because of the way our house is constructed, we can't get such large objects into the basement through the front door. It has to be through that other door. And another concern with item 2 has to do with fire issues. Are they allowed to have windows on both the east and west walls, given that these walls are less than 4 feet from the property line? Will these windows require fire shutters, fire glass, or glass block? We're also now moving to item 6, the proposal to allow their eaves to be only 0.16 meters or 6 inches from the lot line makes us vulnerable to potential drain damage. If there are torrential rains, and if our new neighbors don't keep their eaves clear of leaves and debris, the overflow would land much closer to our foundations. We're also concerned with item 1. Our new neighbors intend to build a rear deck where the elevation is at 6 feet above grade. That means that the platform of their deck will be at the same height as the top fence, as the top of the fences of their neighbors. That includes us. This will give them a full view into the yards and ground floor windows of all 5 neighbors to the sides, the back, and the diagonals. We are also concerned about item 3. This variance would permit more than double the permitted maximum floor space and take up almost 75% of the entire lot. Even more green space will be covered by the cement, as was previously mentioned, in the driveway and extra stairs coming out the front. We are concerned that the increased height by 10 feet and increased length of the proposed building will cast a much wider and longer shadow over our back lawn and garden. This, not to mention the lack of privacy. Also, this isn't an official variance, but we are concerned about their plans for the underground double garage and the cold storage room extending out from the front wall of their house. This will require digging deep into the lawn area in order for their cars to access the garage, which will sit 3 to 4 feet below the level of their lawn.
Okay, I'll ask you to summarize, please.
Okay, they'll have to dig lower. The plans aren't clear about that. Just because the floor of the garage will sit at street level doesn't mean that there isn't way more digging going on because they have a higher lawn already.
And the trees.
And the trees. And so the root system, we think, will just be decimated. They have a magnificent, huge mature tree on their front lawn, as we do. Both of those trees will be impacted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Members, do you have any questions? All right, there being none, let's move to the next area resident, and that's a Fred Glady and Kazia Zarsky.
Oh, it's Fred Glady and Kasia Charsky.
Yes, and if you can state your address, please, for our records.
Yes, we're at 8 Chudleigh Avenue.
Thank you. And what would you like to share with us today?
So, Madam Chair and members of the council, thank you for your time. I would reiterate the comments made by the other speakers in opposition to this application. And I would also direct the committee members to review the 5 letters of opposition and just let the committee know that there are others in the community on this street who are in support of those 5 letters and who may or may not have been able to submit on time. First of all, I will respect the committee time and not go into the same detail on the points raised. But I would say that in particular, the privacy concerns raised, the water drainage concerns raised, and the size of the property overall, those concerns we feel very strongly about. And so I'd be more than happy to go into more detail on that, but I think those points have been made. Can I ask that we bring up the presentation of the plan that was proposed? Thank you. Would you go to page 3, please, of this plan? Right there. Okay. So what I haven't heard, but I think is worth stating is that the application departs significantly from what exists on this street. Chudleigh is a street of consistent homes. Many have been renovated and enhanced, but the homes remain consistent. What you see in these 2 diagrams is what you see along the whole stretch of Chudleigh. And so one of our concerns, not raised already, is that the presentation, if you'd go down then to the north face view, the north elevation view of this report, please. Would you please go down to the, so right there, you'll see, first of all, a very creative diagram with the trees that don't exist. But this represents a drastic departure from what exists on Chudleigh in many ways. Height, garage, front-facing garage, and overall design. And while this may be great in another neighborhood, genuinely it is not becoming in this neighborhood and would certainly change the overall look and feel of the street. If I can return to one item that I raised earlier on the privacy matter, there we talked about the privacy with respect to the overhanging deck, but I would also raise the point brought up in point 2 of Sean and Stephanie Sui Chang's report, and that is the window that would extend on the east side. And that bay window would represent also a concern around privacy. So not only is the size of the building and the composition of the building and the design, but these impositions on each of the adjacent properties presents privacy issues, but also presents issues related to maintenance of the properties and to the overall aesthetic of the neighborhood. The eaves and the drainage issues are particularly concerned because I would hazard to guess that 30 to 50% of people on Chudleigh have experienced concerns or damage due to changing environmental conditions and water runoff. And I would put it that if we
I would
have
ask you to
a bill
summarize,
in like,
please. Please summarize.
yes,
Yeah.
okay, and that Kasia will provide a summary.
I just would like to add one thing very importantly. There's a very dangerous precedent being set here by building on, referring to item 2, so close to the neighbor's home. They will be denied free and clear access to their home. While other homes may be this close to each other on Chudleigh, our side doors are always with a 4-foot access. And in allowing this to happen, it would be a precedent for everybody. And it will deny those individuals free and clear access to their home.
Okay, thank you very much for that presentation. And just to confirm, we did receive the letters of objection on file, and the members have read that thoroughly. Members, do you have any questions of this, this area resident? There being none, let's then move on to the next area resident, again asking that we not repeat the same things. And that is a Stephen Foster and an Anne Marieke Foster.
Madam Chair, Stephen and Anne-Marie are not on the call, and we've reached out to them.
Okay, then if they're not there by the end of it, we'll move on to the next speaker, which is a Pernell Rosamond. Pernell Rosamond.
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members.
If you could state your name and address for the records.
Sure. Yeah, I'm at 938 Duplex Avenue. So I'm in the southwest corner of Duplex and Chudleigh.
Okay, thank you. And if you
So
could share your concerns. Yeah.
Sure. Well, not surprisingly, all of my concerns have been addressed. My concerns for variance number 2 and number 3 have been addressed, and I've been listening to all the comments, and we seem to be reiterating the same concerns again and again and again, and it's 2, 3, and 6.
Okay.
So I'm not going to repeat those, but I do want to add that the house is just not the design that we have in our neighborhood on Chudleigh. The facade does not complement the historic street aesthetics. It's a concrete, it's massive, it's way too close to the next door neighbor at Chudleigh. So there's, even getting in and out in case there's a fire. There's just too many, it's too large for the property size. So that's my concern. And these have all been addressed in the variances that my neighbors spoke of earlier.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And committee members, do you have any questions of Mr. Rosamond? There being none, then let's move on to the next speaker, Hua Pei. Hua Pei, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Please state your name and address for the records.
Okay, hello, Madam Chair and committee members. This is Hua Pei, the owner of 37 Chudleigh, direct east side neighbor of 39 Chudleigh. I object the minor variance number 7. Many of our neighbors already mentioned about other variants, but I want to mainly talk about number 7 bay window. So if you look at the can you pull the location map, please?
Yes, while we're pulling that up, please continue.
Okay, yes, sorry. So it's for the fire hazard as well, and same with enlarge the floor print of the building and the deck. So when you're looking at 39 and 37 Chudleigh, so my garage is right there. So if they enlarge the building and the deck, they will have no access from that side. And my main entrance is on the east side of 39 Chudleigh. So with large bay window overhanging it, so it's less than the setback allowance, and also there's no privacy for us at all with the large window. So that's my all the comments that I have.
All right, appreciate that. Members, do you have any questions of Ms. Pei at this time? There being none, let's move on to the next speaker noted, and that is a Martin Orbanik. Martin Orbanik, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you very much, Madam Chair and members. Martin Orbanik at 48 Cheriton Ave.
Right.
Hi. I also, I agree with the points other concerned neighbors have made. One thing that hasn't been brought up is the design, of course, we feel shows a complete disregard for the neighborhood. That disregard, we were all rather surprised. There was no consultation with the neighbors, no visit from the architect or the developer talking about what their intentions might be. This building, which is more than twice the allowable lot coverage, is just being dropped in our neighborhood with no discussion and no regard. And that's really concerning to us, that this is just allowed to bulldoze even to this point. And I also agree with the last speaker. This house is being built with no access to the backyard on either the east side or the west side because they're at 2 feet. And you can't get a lawnmower back there. You can't even carry a lawn chair to the backyard as designed. A real concern I have is for our friends at 41 Chudleigh, Michael and Ann. If we look at the front elevation, the north elevation drawing of this house, we see that the pitch of the roof is 12-12. It's quite a steep roof line. Now, that roof, the eave, is only 6 inches from the lot line. When heavy packed snow slides off that roof, that snow will land on the roof of 41 Chudleigh. If you just project that line downwards, the house at 41 Chudleigh is a full 10 feet lower than this house. This snow is going to hit 41 Chudleigh, tear eaves troughs off, and land directly on the sidewalk below. That sidewalk is the main access to 41 Chudleigh. And this snow, when it's heavy and packed, it's almost impossible to shovel after, I would say, an almost 30-foot drop. The house is too close on that west lot line. The rules and regulations in the OBC require the setback to allow for this kind of incident of snow falling off the roof. We're very concerned about that. And those are really my main concerns that haven't been spoken to so far in this meeting. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions? There being none, let's move on then to Ron Lloyd. Mr. Lloyd, are you there?
I am indeed. Thank you, Madam Chair and members. My name is Ron Lloyd. I live at 46 Cheriton Avenue. 2 points of context for my remarks. First, I live directly behind 39 Chudleigh, and I've lived here for 27 years, meaning I know the property and the neighborhood extremely well. 2, I'm pro-progress, I'm pro-development, pro-reconstruction, so long as the planned development fits. I have 3 primary concerns. I'll be respectful of the members of the committee time. My focus will be on variants 1, 2, and 3. Variance 1, privacy. The planned rear deck, as mentioned, is planned to be 6 feet above ground. I nicely built a 6-foot high wall, 6-foot high fence for the former owner. And I paid for it, and I was cognizant of the height restrictions and air flowing through and try to be a nice neighbor. And the new occupants of 39 Chudleigh will be building a deck that will look directly down into my garden as we play with the kids and grandkids, etc., and look down at our neighbor's pool and look down at our other neighbors' gardens. So from a privacy perspective, I can't help but think that a deck that is 6 feet above ground does not fit either the neighborhood or this particular house. I do not know of another house on the block that has the 6 foot high deck. Variance number 2, it's been spoken of before. I will not reiterate, but I do want to at least have public record that I have major concerns with the side setbacks and the precedent that it will set. A 2 foot side setback will, as my neighbors have mentioned, provide inability to even get a wheelbarrow from the front yard to the backyard, let alone in the time of emergency to get a stretcher down that side. Variance number 3, so variance 2, I believe, does not fit as well. Variance number 3, the overall size of the planned house, it has already been noted that it is twice the allowable bylaw in terms of lot coverage, and at 35 feet high, 32 feet wide, it does not fit the neighborly houses or environment. So overall, variance 1, 2, and 3, among the others, I do not believe fit. And as a result, I object for this development as planned, and I look forward to seeing revised drawings that are more in keeping with the neighborhood. Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members.
Thank you for that. Any questions, members? There being none, let's move on to the final speaker within the neighborhood. That's a Gail Cronin. Ms. Cronin, are you there?
Hello, yes, we're trying to be there. Can you hear us?
Yes, if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, it's Bob Cronin and my wife's Gail Cronin. She's right beside me, and our address is 35 Chudleigh Avenue, and we are 2 houses east of 39. Overall, we agree with the points that have been made. I mean, simply put, this proposed home pushes the boundaries on virtually every measure in terms of not only what's permitted under the official plan, but what has practically been done in the neighborhood. Many of the homes here do have, in fact, second-story additions, but this one, in terms of its overall FSI and the proximity on the sides to the houses, I think is a problem. And if the committee adjustment, has to have a view that at some point in time they can't allow this continued creeping to happen, and you have to stop somewhere. So I think that the owner needs to be cognizant of what exists on the street and in the area currently, and not push beyond those boundaries. And I hope that the committee will take that into consideration. In a couple practical matters, I think also that I totally understand the privacy observations being made by other participants in this call. I think the elevated deck and the bay view window are not only privacy concerns, but also can be safety concerns as well. And my third point, and I think it's been raised already as well, is it's not clear to me how the mechanics of this so-called basement work. From my looking at the pictures, by any of the measures, this is a 3-story home. The first floor has been renamed a basement for some reason, because I guess it's consistent with the grade of the street, but this property rises upward, going from north to south. So in terms of how mechanically this basement works, it's not clear. And because in effect it is a 3-story home, and as previously observed by one of the members, the roof's in fact very, very steep, and with the width of this house, there's lots of impact in terms of both water and snow impacts. And so I think that as we look at each of these items, that they need to be all cut back. Those are our comments. Oh, and finally, just with respect to the character of the neighborhood, I also agree with the observations that if any of the community members were to see the street, they would observe that, in fact, this is very different, but I appreciate that beauty's in the eye of the beholder there. So those are our comments.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Members, do you have any questions? Okay, and for the record, we did try to reach out to Stephen and Anne-Marie Foster, as well as Grant and Jacqueline Chapman. We have not been able to reach out, and they have not reached back in. So let's move back to the agent Ms. Mazafari. You've seen quite a bit of the opposition to this and the numbers of letters on file. I'm wondering, why you haven't, gone in and probably set up a neighborhood meeting before, them coming here, and there's a lot of time taken up for this type of opposition. Can you address that as well as address the concerns that were raised by the neighbors? Thank you.
Yes, sure. We didn't have a meeting, but we posted a sign containing or contact info so that the neighbors could contact us. And one of them, which I don't know his address, his name was John, did contact us, and we tried to address the neighboring concerns. Also, many of the neighbors that has attended here didn't even write an opposition letter to the committee. Anyway, since I have very limited time to address all these concerns, I just try to categorize the concerns and address them one by one. For the concrete portion and the size of the porch or deck or walkout, none of those are a variance. And for permit submission, we will have a grading plan provided by a registered surveyor, and that will address the concerns for the water storm management and the size of the landscaping and soft landscaping is not a variance. We are complying with all the requirements. Many of the concerns was in regards to the privacy because of the deck. First of all, I should mention that the deck is located on the east side, and just beside the east property line, there is the neighbor's garage with almost zero setback, and that garage almost blocks all the view to their backyard. Still, we are okay to propose a 6-foot height privacy screen on the side to address the privacy concerns. Also, I can lower the deck by 40 centimeter and have its height at 1.45 meter instead of 1.85. But that doesn't remove the variance, but it's a considerable improvement. And I think lowering the deck and having a privacy screen on the side is a solution for those concerns. For the side setback, if you just look at the location map provided by the city staff, you can see that the existing setback of the existing houses is much less than what we are proposing. We are increasing the setback on the east side, and on the west side, as I said, that's a corner lot and have best access and light on all 3 sides. If you just look at the other properties, for example, 35 and 33, 30 and 28, they have almost 2-foot setback house to house, not to the property line. On the west side, the neighbor has a 3-foot setback. We are proposing 2 more setback. We agreed not to install any fence on the property line to have a combined setback to provide access and for the neighbor. And for the fire safety concerns, we should comply with the Ontario Building Code, and for all the windows that has requires the builder will provide fire shutter. as I said, the height of the one more important point because it brought up several times.
I'll ask you to summarize, please.
Yeah, we are not proposing an underground garage. We don't have a variance for that. The garage door is higher than the that the driveway intersects the proper front lot line. And in general, we are complying with the physical character of the neighborhood in regards to the
I'll
side
stop you
setbacks,
there
height.
because your time is up. I know there's quite a bit, but this is why we ask that you sort of try to meet with neighbors beforehand, because you only really have a 5-minute time to rebut. Members, do you have any questions of... Yes, go ahead, Member Attarodi.
Yes, to you, Madam Chair. I just want to draw the attention of the agent to variance number 1 and 4, because when she provided explanation regarding the concerns, she mentioned that we don't have any variance for deck or rear platform. Actually, variance number 1 is regarding the deck projection, and variance number 4 is regarding the proposed rear platform. Just want to draw your attention because you said we don't have any variance for that, variance number 1 and 4. Regarding your explanation for variance number 2, I carefully listened to your explanation and also listened to all neighbors' concerns. And I look at the site plan. Yes, you have a beautiful tree in front yard, but like that doesn't mean that you have to just push the whole building toward the west and give actually a very few, like half of the required setback to the other side. I mean, I understand you want to design and have an area for driving, but like the whole building length is go all the way to the end. I mean, the whole building length is half that setback, which I haven't been convinced. For floor space index, the floor space index that you propose, your explanation is that it's very common in the neighborhood. But I'm sitting on this panel for a very long period of time, and normally the floor space index that proposed, which are more than 2 times the area, like I rarely remember, but I think that this is 2.128 times of the required or permitted. For me, it's not minor. And also regarding the eave projection, one of the neighbors concerned that the roof design is in a way that they might get a lot of snow from your building. When you look at the variance number 5 and 6, that also shows that their concerns are valid. So those are my concerns and my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I should mention that the frontage of this property is 35 foot, and the side setback variance is a very common request for this size of the lot. And the only thing that is different here is that instead of having 3 feet on each side, we are pushing the building just to one side to keep that tree at the front. And for the size of the house and the setback, the planning has no objection to this application because it's consistent with other approved cases in the neighborhood. As I gave you examples, even on the same street, even for the addition renovation applications, the proposed FSI has been the same number of 73%, and what we are proposing is not much larger than that. And since we don't have any length or front or rear setback variance, the building is generally within the allowed building envelope. The staff is absolutely okay with our application. We are not, the height of the building is even lower than allowed. And for the slope of the roof, the proposed slope slope is even less than a standard slope of 20 to 12. We are proposing 12 to 12, which is 45 degree. And as I said, the roof itself has the required setback to the lot lines, and this measurement is the gutter. And considering the existing pattern of the neighborhood with much narrower distance between the homes, this is a very common thing in the neighborhood. For the variance number 1 and 4.
Okay, I'll ask you to please summarize.
Yes, and have variances for the rear deck projection. What I meant by saying we don't have any variance items was in response to the first comment that we have so much concrete or hard landscaping, and we're gonna have problems with storm management. I just wanted to say that stairs size of those elements are complying, and the size of the provided landscaping is also complying, and we definitely won't have any.
Okay, thank you very much. Members, do you have any other questions or comments? Okay, this is quite the application. You've got quite a number of letters of objection. A lot of the members within the community have come out. We are looking at 7 variances. Forestry does apply. Can I get a motion on this?
Okay, I can do it.
Okay, Member Attarodi.
Yes, to you, Madam Chair. As I stated earlier, I haven't convinced that this is an appropriate development for this neighborhood. Therefore, I would like to put forward a motion to refuse this application.
Motion from Member Attarodi to refuse this application. Can I get someone to second that motion? Seconded by Member Manning. All those in favor? Unanimously refused. Thank you very much. Members, do you feel you need a bit of a break, or should we address Mr. Shakiri's medical request? And then we can take a break after that, or? Okay, I'm seeing heads nodding that that's okay. All right, let's move back then to item number 15 and 16. Mr. Ali Shakiri, if you can come back on.
Ali Shakiri, 326 Shepherd Avenue East, for the record.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, the reason why I'm giving you an opportunity to do this is that you've never really asked in all of the years that I've been here for this, so I do know that that must have been extremely important for you. And just to let you know, we did reach out for the members of item number 15 and 16, and they're not available and are not coming on to speak to this application. So let's start with item number 15, which is 39 Greengate Road. Members, 39 Greengate Road is an application with 1 variance. There is 1 letter of opposition that I'd ask that you review on file. Forestry concerns are noted, and there's no one else to speak to this application. I'll give you a brief moment. Do you need a presentation on this, members? There being none? Oh, yeah, Ms. Member Attarodi, you would like a presentation? Or
Just an explanation of coverage.
Right. Mr. Shakiri, if you can respond to the lot coverage concerns of Member Attarodi.
Indeed. First, thank you very much for considering my request, and my apologies to all those waiting on the queue. I have submitted a case study on the entire neighborhood that basically is demonstrating some of the recent approvals on the neighborhood. We went all across the neighborhood, so it's a very, very wide study. This kind of percentage of the coverage is very, very common in the neighborhood, and we believe that what we're putting forward as a proposal is appropriate. Obviously, that's on our side. We did the case study to make sure we are not setting a new precedent. And this is the sole variance, by the way. If you look at the site plan, the house is sitting very well in very good correspondence to the neighboring houses. It's not going any further, further from the front or to the backyard. No side yards or building length. Actually, the building length is majorly less than what is allowed by the bylaw, which is 17 meters. So all in all, we thought this is an appropriate proposal, and we hope that you agree as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, members? If not, can I get a motion on this application? Yes, Member Paul? Yes. Kidd?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I do agree with the agent that this is a minor request for a variance. And I'd like to put forward a motion to accept the application subject to forestry conditions.
Okay. Motion from Member Kidd to approve with forestry conditions. Can I have a seconder? Seconded by Member Manning. All those in favor? This application has been unanimously approved, and just for the record, we did try to reach out to a Charlie Wu, and no one was available. So let's move on now to application number 16. Members with the same agent. This is 36 Cheltenham Avenue, an application with 4 variances, forestry conditions. There were 3 letters of concerns that were documented on here, and members, if you can have a quick review of that. There were about 2 other additional speakers. One was the owner that was on there, and then a couple of additional speakers who did not wish to speak further on the application, and one has not responded whatsoever. Our guidelines do say that you must be logged in from the very beginning as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to members. Do you require a presentation on this application? Not seeing any hands saying yes or no. So with that, Mr. Shakiri, would you like to share with the members anything additionally for their decision making?
Again, we have submitted a case study, and I do not wish to take your time. If there is any question, I'd be more than glad to answer. Thank you.
Okay, members, do you have any questions of Mr. Shakiri? If not, can I entertain a motion? Member Attarodi with a motion.
Through you, Madam Chair, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application subject to urban forestry memo condition.
Okay. So this application, Member Attarodi is motioning to approve with forestry conditions, seconded by Member Bartolo. All those in favor? Okay, your application has been unanimously approved. Thank you very much. Members, let's take a 10-minute break. I think that's necessary right now. And we'll be back starting with application number 5. We'll have about 10 more to go. See you in 10. Thank you. Get started. Hi, everyone. We're just, if I can bring the members back, if you get a moment, and we can start. And this time we are moving on with item number 5. Item number 5 is 5376 Yonge Street. 5376 Yonge Street is a proposal for interior alterations and relief from required parking spaces. There is only one variance on here. Members, if I could turn your attention to that. There's no one here to speak to this application. Let's bring out the agent, and the agent is Michael Barton. Mr. Barton, are you there?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon.
Right, and if you could state your name and address for our records, please.
My name is Michael Barton. Address is 1489 Abbeywood Drive, Oakville, L6M 2M6. I'm the authorized agent of the owner of this property.
Okay. Members, do you require any presentations or have any questions? There's no one here to speak to this application. Okay, there being none, I will ask you, Mr. Barton, is there anything you'd like to share with the members, before they take this into committee for decision making?
Just that I think it's relatively straightforward. I had provided a covering letter just outlining the rationale for the parking reduction given the location in the North York Center. I'd also noted that staff did not provide any opposition or provide a staff report. So if there's any specific questions to the information I had provided in my letter, I'd be happy to address that. But I do think the reduction of parking makes sense for this proposal, and in particular its location on Yonge Street in North York Center.
Okay, thank you. Members, any final questions or comments? If not, can I entertain a motion, please? Motion from Member Bartolo. Member Bartolo, you're muted.
Good catch. I would have done the whole thing that way. Thank you. I think this is a pretty straightforward application, Madam Chair, and I agree there's no opposition and there's no comment from any city staff or departments, so I'll put forward an application, motion to approve this application as is.
Okay, motion from Member Bartolo to approve this application as is, seconded by Member Attarodi. All those in favor? Sir, your application has been unanimously approved without condition. Okay, thank you. Members, let's move on. Item number 6 has been deferred, so let's move to item number 7, which is number 9, Lauderdale Drive. So that's 9 Lauderdale Drive. Sounds like it's in sunny Florida. This is an application to construct a rear accessory structure and 2 rear decks. Please note, members, it's 1 variance, and forestry has some conditions. And can we get a Gagan Hajatri? Gagan Hajatri?
Hi, my name is Gagan Hajatri of 1594 DuPont Street.
Okay.
Unit 2.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Let me just go over. I'm just so sorry. I've lost my tab here where I had the proposal opened.
No
so just give me
problem.
1 moment, please.
Members, do you have any, do you require a presentation on this particular, there's no one to speak to this application? Member Attarodi, yes, you have a question?
Yes, not a presentation, but explanation for this lot coverage. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes. So, Mr. Hajatri, whenever you're ready, just you can provide a brief presentation, but specific to the lot coverage is what's causing some concern.
Sure. If through the chair, if staff could get the second page of the plans open for me, just so I can refer to them. Perfect. So this just gives a better overview of the rear yard. The primary problem is we would not be able to build any accessory structure in the backyard. The existing house is already covers 30% of the lot area, and that's how the clients purchased the property. They want to have some amenity spaces in the rear yard, and one of which is the proposed accessory structure in the bottom left of the drawing, along the rear and southwest property lines. That takes up for about half of the proposed increase for the lot coverage. The other half is the proposed decks 1 and 2. These are at-grade decks, but by the letter of the zoning bylaw, they are included in lot coverage. They are permeable decks. They will drain to below, so we're not concerned about drainage issues there. But that is the breadth of our application here.
Okay, thank you. Members, do you have any questions of the agent? Okay, there being none, can I get a motion? Motion from Member Kidd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I feel this is minor in nature, and I'd like to put forward a motion to accept the application subject to forestry condition.
Okay, motion from Member Kidd to accept the application subject to forestry, seconded by Member Manning. All those in favor? And your application, Mr. Hajatri, was approved with forestry conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, members, let's move on to item number 8, which is 258 Briar Hill Avenue. So there's no one to speak to this. Well, we do have one person, I think, noted here.
Madam Chair, there's actually 2 individuals. However, we've reached out to them and they have not responded, and they're not on the call.
And one of them is noted as the agent as well. So, okay, so let's bring out Kute Kim. Kute Kim?
You hear me? Yeah.
Yes, I can. If you can state your name and address for the records, please.
Yeah, my name is Kyutek Kim. I'm the authorized agent of the owner, and the address is 2347 Kennedy Road in Scarborough.
Okay, I do note that this is an application that has forestry conditions. It is a proposal to construct a rear 2-story extension to the existing dwelling, including a rear deck, and you've got 3 variances. And I do note that there is a May 31st transportation report. However, there's no objections, and there's no one to speak to this application. Let me just ask the members, do you require a presentation? If no presentation, Mr. Kim, would you like to share anything with the membership before they take this into decision making?
Okay, thank you, Madam. Yeah, today I'm presenting to we have a proposed rear 2-story addition, and including a new deck. I believe the proposal has no adverse impact on this neighborhood. Basically, we have no objection from the neighbors, and also no comment from the city planner. So I believe the variance is requested is minor, and then satisfy the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. When we look at the 3 variances here, the very first one is gross floor area, which we propose 0.56, whereas 0.35 is allowed by zoning bylaw. There is only 0.21 difference. And then item number 2, we have 0.31 meter to the east side setback, whereas the 0.9 meter setback is allowed. But we try to come along with the neighboring property, which they also have the rear addition. And then lastly, we have also eve project 0.12 meter, and then 1.9 meter from the east lot line, but it's only the gutter. So yeah, I believe those are the very minor. So I would appreciate if you approved on this application. Thank you, Madam.
Okay, thank you. Members, do you have any questions? If not, can I entertain a motion, please? Member Attarodi.
Yes, to you, Madam Chair, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application with forestry condition.
Okay, a motion from Member Attarodi to approve this application with forestry, seconded by Member Manning. All those in favor? And this application has been unanimously approved, subject to forestry. Thank you, Mr. Kim. Members, let's move on
Thank
to
you, ma'am.
item number 9. Number 9 is 42 Kappelle Avenue, and this is a proposal to construct a new single-family detached dwelling. Members, please note there's 8 variances. Forestry has some conditions. While there's 3 letters of support, there's 8 letters of opposition, a few folks who are here to speak to this. And we recently had a councillor letter that will come up on the screen very shortly, requesting deferral of this application. That was a sort of a new entry that came in. You don't have it in your files yet, but we will show you. In the meantime, can I get a Toivo Vahi out, please? Toivo Vahi?
Committee, my name's Toivo Vahi, 17 Bridle Trail, Midhurst, Ontario, and I'm here to represent the homeowners.
Thank you. Mr. Vahi, in light of a request that has come in for a deferral, I just wanted to offer you an opportunity to see, is there, and quite a number of speakers here as well, are you anticipating deferring this application today?
No, we are, sorry, Madam Chair, no, we are not. This has obviously come up today, and so we were sort of blindsided by that as well, but we feel we'd like to proceed.
Okay, well, I've just put up on there the letter from the Councillor Jay Robinson that is asking, and I'd ask members to consider this as one option in your decision-making as well, please. Okay, as we move throughout, this application. Okay, so that being said, can you provide us, Mr. Vahi, with a brief presentation on the merits of your application before we hear from the neighboring residents?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So the purpose of the application, as stated, is to construct a new 2-story detached single-family dwelling with integral single-car garage and a basement in-law suite. It's important to note that the owner signed a declaration of use, which was submitted at the time of the zoning application. There is no secondary suite or basement apartment being applied for, as suggested in many of the letters of opposition, and it may translate to why the councillor has submitted her letter at such a late stage. Currently, if you could bring up the site plan drawing, the existing survey, I should say, sorry. So currently a vacant 1-story dwelling is with an attached garage is proposed to be demolished on the property. So I'd like to point out the existing structure setbacks. So you'll find that on the north side property line, the current setback is 0.3 meters for 42 Kappelle and 0.44 meters for 44 Kappelle. The south side property line existing setback is 0.74 meters for 42 Kappelle and 0.52 meters for 40 Kappelle. If you could just move down to drawing number 2, please. Thank you. So items number 1, 3, 4, and 7 of the zoning notice pertain to the proposed side yard setbacks. Zoning 10.10.40.70 states that the minimum required setback for a detached dwelling is 0.9 meters. Paragraph 4 further states that the required side yard setback may be reduced to 0.45 meters if there are no windows in that side of the building. So you'll see that in the proposed dwelling, the north side property line we're asking for is 0.61 meters. So 24% of that main wall setback is jutted back in towards the property at 1.2 meters to allow for window openings. The proposed south side setback is at 0.77 meters at the southeast corner, and the main sidewall setback, and it flares out to a distance of 1.18 meters at the southwest corner. So as a result, approximately 68% of the main south side wall has a setback of 0.09 meters or greater. Item 2 pertains to the roof canopy over the front porch, which is essentially the eave projection that protrudes out 12 inches. It's an architectural construction element that's sort of a standard feature or a detail, and it's really not intrusive to the overall front yard in any way. Item 6, floor space index, the proposed is 0.068, and that's considered, in our opinion, be very minor in nature, not unusual as a request. If you can, well, we don't have to refer to it, but a 2020 build at 46 KAPPELE, which I've included in the documents, had a floor space index of 0.74 according to the site plan drawing they submitted for COA. Lastly, item 8 pertains to the building depth. If you refer back to, well, we're still on drawing number 2, great. You'll again note that the rear main 2-story wall is.
I'll ask you to please summarize.
Yes, I'll be quick. The rear main wall is approximately 17 meters in building depth at the midpoint of the rear wall. The actual dimension from the 2-story front wall to the 2-story rear wall is 16.915 in length on the north side and 15.797 length on the south side. It's the basement entry foundation wall, which is triggering the request for building depth of 19.16 and not the 2-story rear main wall. So it's an exterior structural element, and it's a means of egress from the basement, which is required in regards to the building code for egress with. So I'll close at that.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Vahi at this time? If not, let's move over to the first area resident listed on file, and that's an Eric Williams. Mr. Williams, are you there?
Yes, present.
Yes, please state your name and address for our records.
Yes, it's Eric Williams. I live at 133 Ronan Avenue.
Thank you, and if you can share your thoughts on the application.
Sure. I am the owner and resident of the property at 133 Avenue. I've been living here for 27 years. My property is directly adjacent on the west to 42 KAPPELE. Our backyards abut each other, and I have a full and direct sight line to 42 KAPPELE through my backyard. I'm a senior citizen. I'm working well past what is considered a normal retirement age. And when I do retire, I was planning to spend more time in my backyard. However, my peaceful enjoyment of my backyard and my privacy in my backyard will be negatively impacted by this oversized building. I have 2 concerns. My primary issue is variance 8, whereby the proposed building depth of 19.1 meters exceeds the 17-meter bylaw by 13%. The covered porch of 6 to 8 feet at the front also extends this oversized structure. I believe the true depth of the building is actually 69 to 71 feet, or 21 to 21.6 meters, if you include the covered porch at the front. Furthermore, there is a stairwell at the back providing access to the basement apartment, that extends out from the dwelling into the backyard as part of a 10-foot walkout at the rear. This is becoming an awfully long structure. Other newer homes on the street have complied with the 17-meter bylaw, including 46 Kappelle, the newest house in the immediate area. My concern is that a house of this size is not fitting for the neighborhood and will diminish everyone's privacy. This is particularly the case with the back 6 feet or 1.8 meters of the building being a second floor balcony that extends past the existing new homes on the street. This second floor balcony has a height of 11 feet above grade, and this 11-foot high balcony will have a commanding view of the neighbors, given that most fences have a maximum height of 6.6 feet. This overly high balcony will overlook properties on Kappelle, properties at the rear, and will overlook me. This overlooking very high second floor balcony will reduce my privacy and the privacy of many homes. This proposed depth is not a minor variance, and I object to this variance. My other concern relates to variance 4 and 5, whereby the side yard setbacks do not appear appropriate for a house with a basement suite with primary access from the backyard. The use of a backyard main entrance to a basement apartment will negatively affect the peaceful enjoyment of residents, especially those located adjacent to the north and south of this building, and residents with backyards at the rear. Thank you to the committee for your consideration.
Okay, thank you for that. Committee members, do you have any questions? There being none, let's move on to the next area resident, Margaret Bowden. Margaret Bowden.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for giving me some time to speak to this this issue. So I live at 16 Braeside Road, which is on the northeast corner of Braeside Road and Kappelle Avenue, and I am directly across the street from 42 Kappelle. Before I really get into it, I have to note that my letter of objection is the only one that's posted on the Application Information Center website. And I know that many others were submitted, and you've alluded to that, but I have to ask if this is the normal practice that the letters of objection are not posted, and would ask whether that's something that actually impacts the process overall. So my concern with the application is that 42 Kappelle is that the overall size of the proposed dwelling is more than should be allowed at this point. In particular, like the previous speaker, I have concerns about variance 8, which is related to the depth of the building. This request is not minor, particularly when you combine it with the proposal for a balcony on the back. I believe there's an extension on the on that building. So it would definitely be intrusive on neighboring yards and would set an undesirable precedent for future construction. Also, variances 4 and 5 with the side setbacks. There's just not enough room to safely access the backyard. There does seem to be a proposal for a basement apartment there. I don't see how in, if you had to get fire or ambulance or anything, even a wheelbarrow through there, I'm not sure that you could do it. And I think given that there will be more construction in this area, this sets a precedent for the neighborhood that would be very challenging. And those are my remarks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members, do you have any questions? If not, let's move over to the next speaker. Now, I do note that we've got an Ehsan Tebegahun and Delnaz Aleph Bao, but they are representing the owner. So we already have someone speaking on behalf of the application, so we will not go to them. I just want to confirm that they are representing the owner.
I've unmuted Delnaz.
Hi, sorry. I am representing the owner of the neighboring property, number 44.
Oh, great. Okay, no problem. Thank you for the clarification. Please state your name and address for records, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Delno Ziekrangian, speaking on behalf of Ehsan, owner of number 44. The property is the immediate neighbor of the applicant to the north. You know, in general, I think we do welcome a new building to the neighborhood. Our only concern is building depth variance, variance number 8. And it is not only triggered by the entry to the basement, the concern is the second floor rear balcony that was mentioned by others. Our suggestion is if the committee would impose a larger setback for the balcony, or if the owner is open to reducing its size, we don't want to object, but we want to find a solution or a compromise. Thank you.
Yeah, that's fair. That's good. And we can indeed, note that and see what the owner says, okay? Members, do you have any questions of that agent? I mean, the neighbor? Okay, and that's a direct impacted neighbor, so thank you for that. And let's move on finally to Janice Barnett, the last remaining person to speak to this. Ms. Barnett, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. If you could state your name and address for the records, please.
Great, thank you. My name is Janice Barnett. I am at 40 Kappelle Avenue, which in Toronto. I'm the direct resident south of the 42 Kappelle proposed development. I'm representing myself and my husband on this call, and I'd like to thank you for Madam Chair for allowing us to have this opportunity to have our voices heard, and also for acknowledging the letter that Councillor Robinson has sent in this morning. I think it's very important that the neighborhood really feels, and specifically myself, that we have had absolutely no consultation with the family that is proposing this development or any of their agents. And while they've all had probably up to a year to prepare all this, our neighborhood has had 10 days to look at the plans and have comments. So I'd just like to reiterate my concerns. Number one is the length of the building. And why is this significant? Well, it's almost 15% longer than the allowable amount by bylaw, but also that second floor balcony, which is a 6-foot glassed-in balcony, has an absolutely wonderful, beautiful view of the center of my backyard, and will be about 4 feet from the lot line. So when I go out in the morning to have my morning coffee, I get to look up at whoever is living there, wandering out in their underwear to see what the weather is like. So that is a big concern for me, as well as the fact that the tree that exists there right now that affords us a lot of blockage from the backyard is going to be removed. So that amount of privacy being lost is significant. I also like to make a comment about the basement apartment. Mr. Vahi has noted that the owner has signed some sort of declaration. Well, that's really irrelevant when that house gets sold to the next owner, and that beautiful, basement apartment is available to be rented out. I think the other comments are significant in that there's, because of the reduced variance for the setback, that there really is no way to get anything down there except for very skinny people or people that want to crawl over stuff. I also have concerns about a second floor window on the south side of the building that looks right into my hallway window, and I get to look into their toilet. So I don't think that's a very fine placement of that window. There's a basement window, there's a glass window, but it doesn't show any window well. I don't know if that's normal or not, but it shows that it's below grade. If there's a window well, that also takes away from access. And I have a huge concern about the tree that belongs to 46 Kappelle, or I'm sorry, 44 Kappelle. It's 3 feet away from the lot line, and will be about 5 feet away from the new foundation of the house. So there's going to be significant damage to that tree canopy, and there's going to be significant damage to the root balls. So, you know, I'd like to reiterate, there's been no conversation, there's been no, you know, discussion. And I think Councillor Robinson's point is really significant, that it would be good for all the interested parties to be able to have some sort of consultation. You know, I could go on, there's all kinds of other odd things, but one thing that stands out is that the design, or whoever designed it, does not have a good understanding or familiarity with how this house is fitting into the neighborhood or onto that lot, and what exists here. Otherwise, I think they would agree that having a balcony directly overlooking the neighbor's backyard is not a great idea. Having a window that's looking into the upstairs hallway is not a good idea. I really have to question the familiarity there. So I'm hoping that you'll take all these things into consideration and seek to defer this and have it go back for redesign and rework. I mean, we're all excited to have a shiny new home, but it really has to work with what's existing already. So thank you again for your time. I've got 15 seconds, and that's all I have to say. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much for your comments, Ms. Barnett. Members, do you have any questions of Ms. Barnett? Okay, and that's yet another request for deferral. So please keep that in mind as you're deliberating on today's on this application. I'll call back on to the microphone, Mr. Vahi, the agent. If you can address all those concerns that you've heard and some of the requests that have been made, especially to the neighbor that is directly to your side, as well as the opportunity again to consider a deferral option.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So to respond, again, it seems that everybody's focusing on this basement apartment, which I have explained. The declaration of use is a document by City of Toronto, which is the legal document stating that the basement is going to be used for in-law purposes only. So there's no reason to believe that in the future, somebody else, if they purchase the property, is going to use it as a basement apartment. That would be illegal. You have to go through the city to get a secondary unit application to get a legal apartment. So that would be the process. So I think that point should be mute at this time because it's not part of this application. As for the neighbor on 44, we appreciate the support, and we have had discussions with them. So in regards to the side yard setback, and they were concerned about the window and the fire protection. And we did explain to them we are doing everything by code. The side yard windows are set back at 1.2 meters, which is a requirement. And they're going to be glass block regardless. In regards to their concern about the balcony, this is not part of the zoning variance application, the balcony itself, but of course we're willing to work with the neighbors, maybe put up privacy screen, maybe reduce the balcony slightly in dimension. The balcony is as a result of the covered walkway area, which protects the walkway going down into the basement and the walkout from the rear yard living space. In regards again to the side yard setbacks, again, it is on the street. There's many examples of side yard setbacks that are less than what we are asking for, and there are ones that are at the 0.45 meter setback. For example, you had mentioned 46 KAPPELE. They have a side yard setback on their south side at 0.45 meters because they do not have windows on that side wall, and that is part of the zoning bylaws. So We are complying and trying to be considerate towards the neighbors. The idea on the south side with number 40, the side yard setback, as I stated before, was 0.77 at very least point of entry, and it expands out to 1.18 meters. So it is substantially larger setback than what they have. They have a 0.52 meter setback. So I don't see their concern in regards to the setback on the south side. We are complying to the best of our ability to make this a nice detached single-family home. And in terms of character, it fits right in with the Wanless neighborhood. So that is my response at this time, and I don't feel that a deferral is justified just because the councillor has submitted a letter at this late stage. We do believe that these variances are minor in nature and are compatible and desirable in the character of the style and in the area, and the requested are minor and meet the general intent and purposes of the zoning bylaws and the official plan. So I hope you take that into consideration and not decide to defer this. We are willing, obviously, to work with the neighbors and to establish that good neighbor, situation.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Vahi. I think it wasn't just the councillor, it's the other residents are asking for it as well, but I think they're feeling that they needed that explanation up front. So anyway, I accept your explanations, and I'm going to turn it over to our committee members. Do you have any questions of Mr. Vahi? And if not, you have a decision to make. Yeah, Member Kidd?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had one quick question here. A lot of the opposition from the neighbors had to do with the building depth at 19.16 meters, which it does look very large. But just so I'm clear, from the front of the building to the back of the two-story portion, it's 17 meters?
That is correct. An actual measurement, because the front yard setback, the required setback is actually a little bit forward in the front yard than the actual building where the proposed construction would occur. It's only 16.915 meters in length, but by the established required setback, the average of the two lots, it makes it to about roughly 17 meters at the midpoint of the from front to rear.
The additional 2.16 meters, that's for a basement, the basement walkout, is that correct?
The 1.828 meters, or the 6 feet beyond the 17 meters, or that 2.1, yes, that you're right. The 2.1 is for the basement foundation.
Okay,
for the
thank you.
walkout.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? If not, can I get a motion, please? Member Kidd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I feel that I do accept the explanations provided by the agent. And given the support from planning staff, I'm going to put forward a motion to accept this application subject to forestry condition.
Okay, motion from Member Kidd to approve the application subject to forestry. Can I get someone to second that motion? Seconded by Member Bartolo. All those in favor? And all those opposed? Okay, 2 opposed. You've put me in a position now. I'm going to deny that motion, and I'll ask for another motion, please. Member Bartolo.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. While I don't typically like doing this, I think the application has merits. And obviously I agree with Member Kidd's motion, but in order to get some consensus here and not just throw this application away, I'll put forward a motion to defer this application sine die to allow the applicant to work with the neighbors.
Okay, thank you. A motion from Member Kidd to defer this application sine die. All those in favor? Seconded by Member Attarodi. All those in favor? Okay, opposed? Member Kidd opposes the deferral, but we've got majority vote, so your application has been deferred sine die. To give you a chance to speak with the various neighbors and perhaps provide a better explanation and address some of their concerns as well. Thank you. Moving on to application number 10. This is number 217 Donlea Drive. And 217 Donlea Drive is an application to construct a rear one-story addition with second floor deck and interior alterations. There are 3 variances on file here. We've got a staff report of May 24th that's asking us to eliminate variance 1 and modify variance 2, and 1 letter of support. There is no one else to speak to this application. We've got the agent, Wanda Eli. Wanda Eli, are you there?
Wanda, you've been unmuted.
And I am the agent for the owners of 217 Donlea.
Sorry, if you could state just your name and address. You got cut off somewhat between, so just the name and address, please, for our records.
Yes, my name is Wanda Ely. My address is 1067 Bloor Street West in Toronto.
Okay.
And I am the agent for the owners. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So you're aware of the staff report asking about variance 1 being eliminated and modification of variance 2. Are you making any modifications today to your application?
Yes, we are eliminating number 1. So we had been back and forth with the Julia Corelli, the planner, and she asked us to move in the east wall of the deck so that there is no longer a side yard setback required for the deck, and we've done that. Okay. And as a result, that changed the proposed area of the rear balcony, and I will give you the new meter squared in one moment.
So variance number 2 changes from 21.22 square meters to...
Yeah, if you give me just 1 second,
Sure.
I should have been prepared with that info.
No problem. So members, variance number 1 is eliminated and variance number 2 is being reduced.
Yes, it's only very slightly reduced because we changed the setback not have a variance required for the side setback, and but really we do believe this is minor. We have reduced it to 20 meters squared.
Okay. So reduced it to 20 meters square, variance 1 eliminated, variance 2 reduced to 20 meters squared. There are only 3 variances. You've met the staff report and there's a letter of support. Members, do you require a presentation at this time? There being none, can I get a motion? Sorry, let me just ask to the agent, is there anything final that you want to say to members before they take it into committee for this deliberation?
Just that this owner has been very considerate of neighbors and made sure that all adjacent neighbors were aware and nobody had addressed any concerns, and only the letter of support that you received.
Okay, thank you for that. Members, can I get a motion, please? Member Manning.
Through you, Madam Chair, I think these variances are minor. I'd like to make a motion to approve this application with the following changes. Variance 1 is eliminated, and variance 2 is reduced to 20 meters squared.
Thank you. Motion from Member Manning to approve this application with the changes made by the applicant here today, seconded by Member Attarodi. All those in favor? Your application has been unanimously approved with the changes you made here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, members, let's move on to item number 11. And item number 11 and 12 are by the same, with the same agent. Item number 11 is 5995 Yonge Street. This application is an application to permit modifications of the gross floor area, building height, parking requirements for an approved mixed-use building. Please note, members, that there's no one here to speak to this application, and there's no other staff conditions. Let's bring out the agent, Tony Volpentesta. Mr. Volpentesta, are you there?
Madam Chair, good afternoon. I am here.
Right, thank you.
For the record, my name is Tony Volpentesta. I'm a partner at Bousfields. I'm a planning consultant and the applicant in this case. My address is 3 Church Street, Suite 200, M5E1M2. I have prepared a presentation, but I'd like to address one item right from the very get-go, which is a letter from Councillor Lily Chang, which effectively indicates that she feels that the application is not minor, and specifically the very last sentence of her letter, if the developer would like to increase the number of stories or increase the gross floor area, then they should work with city planning to get these adjustments made. My main message to the committee members is that, so she withdraws her letter. There you go. Very helpful, because we have been, I just want to assure the committee, the purpose of this application and the basis of the application is we've done exactly what the councillors had suggested in her original letter before she withdrew the letter, which is work closely with the planning department on the nature and form of this proposal. And I'm just asking for my presentation. I'm in your hands. I could walk you through a modified and condensed version of my presentation. I do want to, if you think one is necessary, obviously I'm quite prepared to walk you through the basis of the application, the changed circumstances and the adoption of a secondary plan that post-date an Ontario Land Tribunal hearing in which I was a witness.
Why don't you just do like the Coles Notes version and share with the members, seeing that you've prepared it, and it might help them understand that why there was the original opposition that's now been withdrawn. That would be helpful.
Yes, we had submitted a presentation to the committee. I don't know if the slides are available.
Yeah, while that's being brought up, you can just begin, because your 5 minutes has already started.
I'll skip to the chase, as they say. I'll indicate the location of the property is at the southeast corner of Wedgwood and Yonge, so it's just north of Drury/Cummer. It's the location of a planned subway station. What happened was back in August of 2021, there was a contested hearing. The proposal before the tribunal was for a 38-story mixed-use building. And in that case, what happened a year after the hearing decision was rendered, the city adopted the Yonge North subway, Yonge Street North secondary plan, which changed the underlying land use designation for the lands immediately east of my client's land. So they were previously neighborhood. Hopefully the presentation will appear shortly, so you can see what I'm talking about.
Presentation material.
Thank you very much. I'll describe it to the committee members. The lands to the immediate east were designated neighborhoods. They were yellow in the official plan. As a result of the secondary plan, that designation changed to mixed-use areas. And the nature of the proposal is twofold. It's effectively to increase the height itself of the tower from 38 to 42 stories, and then also change the shoulder, if you will, of the eastern portion of the site. So it's regularized, and it's 7 stories in height. The shoulders, or the eastern terracing, are proposed to be removed. The nature of that proposal has been vetted by planning and urban design staff. The meaningful change, the redesignation of the lands to the east fundamentally changes the basis for how an application like this is evaluated. The other, thank you very much. So this slide, sorry, just go up a sec. The slide on next page, please. This slide shows the official plan before the amendment. So if you look at my client's property, it's indicated it's a subject site. The red is mixed use area. To the east is neighborhood. Next page, please. Thank you for your patience. What's meaningful here is the secondary plan changes and everything to the east goes from yellow to red. It's all mixed use areas. That fundamentally changes the basis for how this type of application would be evaluated. If you go further down, there's a number of pages that look at the additional height. So this is the previous approval at 38. Keep going down. We're now at, and then if you notice the eastern portion of the site, there's some terracing at 7 stories, 6 stories, and 4. That's what I refer to as the shoulder. Then the proposal before you today is for a 42-story building. There's associated metric heights or geodetic heights with associated with the proposed variance, and we're proposing to switch out a height schedule or height diagram in the bylaw. And then if you go towards the end, the other variances related to GFA are related to the increase in height and the removal of the shoulder on the east end of the site. The variances related to parking, if I can go to that in the limited time I have now, deal with the adoption of the citywide adoption of a new bylaw that effectively has no minimum, but this is reflective of a standard that was in a site-specific bylaw, and that site-specific bylaw had a prescribed parking rate of 0.41 spaces per unit. Effectively, the ratio would go down to 0.23, and that numerically, that results in a change from 184 spaces down to 115 spaces. And then importantly, the minimum required rate for visitor is similarly being changed to reflect the new citywide bylaw 89-2022. So we go from a site-specific residential visitor rate embedded in a bylaw that goes from 0.1 spaces per unit down to a minimum of 2 plus 0.5 spaces per unit. And that results in a numerical change of 50 spaces down to 27 spaces. In a previous slide, just for the committee's benefit, the GFA would be increased from the GFA is being increased from 31,000 square meters. I think it's on the next page, further in, 31,000 square meters over up
I'll ask
to
you to summarize,
34,700.
please.
As a package, these variances largely reflect changed circumstances of the nature of the secondary plan, fundamentally changing the context of this site. The parking changes are reflective of the city's new standard and new policy regarding minimums for both resident and for visitor. And then the GFA count is reflective of the suggested changes. Those are my comments. I'd be glad to answer any questions. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members, do you have any questions of the applicant here today? Or the agent? Okay, there being none, I think we know now that the councillor letter has been withdrawn. There's just 6 variances. There's no one here to speak to this application. Can I get a motion, please, if there's no questions? Motion from Member Bartolo.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. In reviewing this application and understanding the policy framework that's changed over time and some of the new bylaws that have been enacted, I'm inclined to agree with what the applicant has put forward here before us. And I do believe it meets the 4 tests, and it's overall minor in nature, given the nature of the neighborhood and the form of the building. Therefore, I will put forward a motion to approve this application.
Okay, motion from Member Bartolo to approve the application as is, seconded by Member Manning. All those in favor? Your application has been unanimously approved. And then with the same agent, let's move on to item number 12, which is 6150 and 6160 Yonge Street, number 9 and 11 Pleasant Avenue, and 18 Golding Avenue. For this one, it's a 13-story mid-rise mixed-use development. There's 2 variances noted on file. I do have someone here to speak to this application. I'm just going to double check, are they online? Yes, okay, not a problem. So, Mr. Volpentista, if you can provide another brief presentation on this, the merits of this application, then we can hear from the area resident. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks to the committee for approving the previous application. This is, in terms of its substance, it's materially different than the other application. In this case, there is an approval in place and a site-specific bylaw for a mid-rise building. It is, as you've indicated, 13 stories in height. It's a C-shape or courtyard building with a short wing along the north end, along Pleasant Avenue, and a longer wing along Goulding. The changes that are being requested that deal with height are specifically being requested to reflect structural elements of the building that are necessary to have the building built at exactly the same height and stories, but there's a geodetic difference in height. For the most part, that height difference is 0.9 meters overall. The way in which this approval worked, and this too also has a changed circumstance in terms of the surrounding land use context. Similarly to my last presentation, where I've indicated that the land use for the surrounding lands, in that case to the east, in this case to the west, they were also designated neighborhoods or yellow, and now the secondary plan designates the properties to the west, all mixed use areas, or red. Switching to the very fundamental essence of this application, I'm going to ask you to go to page 13, the second last slide. Here's the where the rubber hits the road, so to speak. Just a little further, I'll come back to this variance regarding parking. Yes, thank you. These are the numerical differences in height that we're requesting. So it's not like any impact on the terracing. And if you look carefully at each of the requested height changes, let's take the westernmost terrace along Goulding. It was approved at 14.7 meters in the site-specific bylaw. We're asking for a height of 15.5. Again, if you go through every single suggested change, on balance, most of them are 0.9 meters. There are a few that are less. There's a few that are slightly more. But on balance, the integrity of this building, the 7-story street wall along Yonge, the nature of the terracing along Pleasant and Goulding have been completely retained. The other test that the planning department made sure that we undertook was to assess the shadow impact on the east side of Yonge to ensure that there was 5 hours of contiguous sunlight on the sidewalk on the east side of Yonge. That's been submitted and also been based on the fact that you have no comments before you from the planning department. There was consideration of those impacts, and they've indicated no concern by providing you with a report or memo. So the requested variances deal with primarily this matter, a revised diagram 5 of the bylaw, which I would submit to you is in fact minor. It allows for the construction of an excellently designed mid-rise building, valuable contribution to the future of Yonge Street. This is an unusual property with considerable depth along Goulding and along Pleasant. The other variance deals with parking spaces for residential visitor. And if I could ask you to go to the previous slide, I'll just review that with the committee. So there was in the site-specific bylaw, there was a requirement for parking for residential visitors. We're asking for the rate that's actually embedded in the City of Toronto harmonized bylaw as amended by bylaw 89/2022, which indicates a minimum of 2 spaces plus 0.05 parking spaces per dwelling unit and a maximum rate of 1. And that is, so the proposed number of residential visitors would be 31, and the previous bylaw would have required 57. I know, having reviewed the material submitted on this application, there's no concern indicated from Transportation Services because this is consistent precisely with where the city is headed in terms of prescribing a resident visitor number. And so as a package, the height variances thematically deal with height, which I would submit to the committee, deal with allowing for some additional tolerance for structural reasons.
I'll
to allow
ask
for
you
the
to
building be
summarize,
constructed.
please.
Thank you. And then I was going to wrap up by saying the resident visitor requested parking variance simply deals with trying to get us in line with harmonized bylaws citywide in terms of that rate. And those are my submissions. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you. Members, do you have any questions? If not, let's move on to the next speaker, Vinod Jain. Mr. Jain, are you there?
Hi, this is Vinod.
Yes, hello. Can you state your name and address for our records, please?
Vinod Jain. I live at 19 Pleasant Avenue. My property backs onto 18 Golding Avenue.
Yes. And what are your concerns, Mr. Jain?
Concern is that the parking space was already too little there, 57 or whatever it was. And now they are reducing it even further. Our street is going to be flooded with, visitors coming in because the building wants to keep all their, space for renting it out rather than having, considering the neighborhood.
Right. Okay, thank you. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Jain? And let's take it back then to Mr. Volpin-Testa. You've heard what Mr. Jain has some concerns about the parking. Can you, respond to that?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd be glad to. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jain, for your input and comment. I think I just want to emphasize we're not changing the overall parking rate, the resident rate, as embedded in the site-specific bylaw. We're just dealing with resident visitor. The application was fully supported by a technical supporting study by my client's transportation consultant, BA Group. That justification was reviewed and vetted by the Transportation Department. You have no comments or concerns expressed by that department. I know that the reliance in my case is reliance on a citywide newly adopted standard, but there's also support from a technical expert on that very subject and on that very variant specifically. Again, reviewed by city staff and no concerns expressed on the record with regard to the second variance regarding resident visitor. Those are my comments, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Volpin-Testa? Member Bartolo, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just to confirm, sir, if this was submitted today, you wouldn't have to have variance number 2, correct? You'd adopt a new bylaws?
That's exactly correct, yes.
Okay. Just to give some comfort and understanding to the previous speaker there that it's essentially a legacy bylaw that was in place and has been addressed with new policy recently.
That's a good way to characterize what you're dealing with before you today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion? Member Bartolo?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. In reviewing this and listening to the applicant's words, I tend to agree with what they're saying. I think the relative height being proposed by them will not have an adverse impact on the neighborhood and will be negligible, almost not noticeable. Number of stories remains the same. It's just a couple meters or less than here and there and across that larger building. I don't think it's going to have an adverse impact. And I'm in agreement with the technical merits of the study provided for transportation and the applicant's words regarding the transportation and parking situation. Therefore, I'll put forward a motion to approve this application.
Motion from Member Bartolo to approve this application as is, seconded by Member Attarodi. All those in favor? Your application has been unanimously approved without condition. Thank you so much. Members,
thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members of the committee. Thank you.
3 more to go before the morning period is over. Let's start with number 13, which is 66 Cheltenham Avenue. Please note, members, that 66 Cheltenham Avenue is a proposal to construct a new enclosed front porch and second-story addition over existing one-story structure. There are 2 variances noted, no other staff reports, and no one else to speak to this application. I welcome Mr. Tom Sprague to the microphone, please. Mr. Sprague, if you can state your name and address for our records.
Yes, my name is Tom Sprague, and my firm name is Sprague and Company Architects, and our address is 156 Duncan Mill Road here in Toronto.
Great. Members, do you need a presentation on this application?
I would like to just make one comment, if
Absolutely.
I could, just or a clarification on the notice that went out for the public hearing notice. Purpose of the application, it states the proposal to construct a new enclosed front porch and second-story addition over the back. That was incorrect. It's a covered front porch. We're not planning to enclose it. So it was sort of a typo that came out with the notice. So it was a covered
All
front
right.
porch,
Thank you
really.
for that explanation.
Having said that, my feeling is there's 2 variances, you say, and the floor space index is nominally above the bylaw limit. And my opinion, this is a very appropriate development and certainly, in my opinion, minor in nature.
All right. Thank you. Members, do you have any final questions of Mr. Sprague? If not, can I get a motion, please? Yes, Member Attarodi.
Through you, Madam Chair, as you mentioned, this is a very straightforward application. Therefore, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application with no condition. Thank
Motion
you.
from Member Attarodi to approve this application without condition, seconded by Member Kidd. All those in favor? Your application, Mr. Sprague, has been unanimously approved. Members, let's take a look at item number 14, which is number 3 ELKPATH Avenue. 3 ELKPATH Avenue is an application to construct a new dwelling. Please note that there are 4 variances and forestry does apply. We do have someone to speak to this application. Let's bring out the agent, Mason Lin. Mason Lin, can you come on, please, and state your name and address for our records?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Mason Lin. My address is 802 Cochrane, Unit number 1.
Okay. Can you just share the merits of your application? We do have someone who wishes to speak to it, so if you can give us a brief presentation, please.
Yes, sure. And could you please share the screen with the first floor plan?
Okay,
Staff are currently pulling up your floor plan.
Yes, please.
Continue with your presentation, please, while we're getting that.
Okay. As you can see, there are 4 minor variants in our application, and the reason of the 4 variants come up is because of the added area in the basement, which is under the rear yard deck. This result of the rear deck should be counted into the coverage, building length, and depth, and the rear yard setback has to be measured to the deck instead of the main wall. So in other words, if not including the rear yard deck, the building coverage is within 30%, and the building length will be 17 meters. And additionally, the deck is only 1 step above grade. So the basement is almost fully underground. And I believe the added area in the basement has no negative impact to the neighborhood. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Members, do you have any questions of the agent? Okay, if there are no questions, let's take it to the next speaker that's noted on file, and that's a Murray Rutka. Murray Rutka, are you there?
Hello?
Hi. Can you state your name and address for our records, please?
I can. Is it possible for you to actually see me? Can you see me? Can you do a video?
I don't think it was registered. Yes, it was registered for video. Let's see if we can. But while they're pulling that up, why don't you just begin sharing your concerns about the application? What's your address again? Oh, there we go. We've got you there.
I live at, hi. I live at 149 Moss Grove Trail. My name is Mari, M-A-R-I, Rutka, R-U-T-K-A, and I've lived here for 32 years. So I know the neighborhood pretty well. I'm not, and the thing that I wanted to show you, I did send Mr. Brijraj a pic of this photo, but this is really, folks, locking the barn door after the horse has been stolen, because this house is pretty much completed. And I don't know how you do these measurements where you decide how much it's gone over what it was supposed to be. But as I think you just heard the builder say, there is also this extension under the deck, which is a raised deck, no matter if one step or whatever, it's raised. So if they didn't include that, then they're really underestimating how much the yard is being taken up. And my concern primarily with this is that not only, if you look at that picture, which is some other house, not our neighborhood, obviously, if you look at the background, but if you look at the drawings, which I hope you have before you, the neighborhood drawing, you'll see the picture that looks like it's the house isn't that much larger, I will absolutely agree, than the other houses in the neighborhood. However, when you add on that deck area and a pool that is also apparently going in, which goes to within 2 feet on two sides, you'll see there, within 2 feet on two sides of the backyards, there is very, very little uncovered green space left in the whole lot. And the concern for us is that I live kitty corner behind that, and the people that live directly behind that, I think are going to be affected in terms of water runoff. I think we already have been. Since that construction has started and they dug the big, mostly below but not completely below grade deck, which is concrete at the back, and now they're digging the pool. I've had a lot of trouble with water in my backyard, specifically in the side of the yard that is closest to where this house is being built. Now, I do think at this point, I feel very disappointed by this whole process. We got a letter 2 weeks ago. Before that, I had phoned when they started digging these very large pits in the ground. I had phoned to say, I think this is bigger than it's supposed to be, but I heard nothing ever after that. And I know other neighbors called about that too, and they heard nothing ever after that. I assumed it was probably just a done deed at this point. And truly, it is a done deed. I mean, the roof is on, the windows are in, the siding of the house is on. I don't know if there's anything you guys can do. I doubt it. You might find them, but they'll probably just factor that into whatever they sell the house for. So I don't think that's really going to be helpful. But I did want to speak today because I think what concerns me is this actually, then if you approve this, which I'm sure you're going to do, because what else are you going to do? The house is already there. It makes me wonder, like, what were your inspectors doing? Because construction's been going on for almost 2 years. If not longer, I can't even remember, but it's been about 2 years since they started digging the holes in the ground. So I don't think there's a lot that you're going to change at this point. I would be surprised. I don't know if you are able to find, but perhaps you are. I hope you at least talk to your building inspectors, because I think they have been fooled, particularly by the whole deck and pool thing in the backyard. But what concerns me also, besides the water runoff, is that this sets a precedent, because these people will have done this. It's already, as I said, a done deed. The house is pretty much there. I'm not against more density in urban settings. I'd rather that than green space be destroyed. But I'm not sure building another single family monster home really helps the urban environment in Toronto. And but it's already there. And I think what you're doing now, because I suspect you're probably just going to say, yeah, sure, we pass it because it exists.
Yeah, I'll ask you to summarize, please.
Yeah, all I have to say is that you're setting a precedent, and I think, you know, the rest of our neighborhood will soon follow. So.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you so much, and thank you for coming on video. And just to let you know, we have actually, for things that have already built, we have disapproved as well. That is still an option out there, but we'll leave it to the members. Members, do you have any questions of Ms. Rudka at this time? Okay, if no members, no questions, then let's invite the agent back out, Mr. Lin. You've heard some very strong concerns from Ms. Rudka and also in indicating that this is a fully built structure and, you know, seeing that it seems finished. What have you to say in rebuttal to this?
Yes, sure. Thanks, Mary, for your comments. And regarding the side yard setback, we are fully compliant with the zoning bylaw, so there's no variance for the side yard setback. And also the pool, we already got a pool permit for this pool. And also for this whole building, we got the building permit 2 years ago, and we are totally the same size with the previous permit. And also the concrete deck is the same size with the previous permit. The only change is under the deck, we increased basement area, which will be used for storage and wine cellar in the basement. That's the only change, and this change result of the increase of the coverage and also building depth. Okay. That's what I want to respond to the concern. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Lin? Yes, Member Kidd, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is, it seems like the variances are triggered by the building of the basement foundation underneath the rear deck. Out of the 4 requested variances, are any of them not related to the putting the foundation underneath the deck?
Yes, the 4 variants are all related to the basement area. If we look at the basement plan, we can see under the deck is a storage and wine cellar. Since we're adding this area, so the rear deck will be counted into the building length and also be counted into the lot coverage.
Yeah, I understand that, but all 4 of the variances were triggered by that change. Is that correct?
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bartolo, I saw that you had your hand up as well. Did you want to ask a question?
All good now, same clarification.
Any other questions from members? If not, can I get a motion, please? Member Kidd, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the addition of the foundation underneath the proposed deck is not going to be a significant change to what was previously approved. I'm going to put forward a motion to accept the application subject to forestry condition.
Okay, motion from Member Kidd to approve this application subject to forestry. Although a second, can I get a seconder for this? Seconded by Member Bartolo. All those in favor? Dissenting? Member Attarodi is dissenting. Your application has been approved, Mr. Lin, with forestry conditions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Finally, members, if I could turn your attention to the final item of the AM period, and that is item number 17. Item number 17 is number 153 Palm Drive, a proposal to construct a new patio roof at the rear of the existing dwelling. Please note, members, that there is one variance noted, and no other conditions, and no one else to speak to this application. Let's bring out the agent, and the agent noted is a Rachel Rogers Stewart. Ms. Stewart, are you there?
Yes, hi. Hello, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'm Rachel Rogers Stewart. I am with Jarvis Design Firm, which is at 16 Ridge Street, Strathroy, Ontario. And we're representatives on behalf of the owner.
Great. Thank you for that, members. No one here to speak to this application, and no other conditions from staff. Do you wish for a presentation? Okay, there being none. Ms. Stewart, is there anything you'd like to tell the committee members, just any final statement before they go into deliberation?
Yeah, I'll just say a short summary. So the project scope just includes an installation of a roof above an existing, technically illegal, non-conforming patio. So we applied for the variance due to the existing patio space and newly proposed roof above, surpassing the maximum allowable lot percentage. We consider it to be minor due to the patio being existing since 2016 and not causing any problems, as well as the fact that it's visible on the site plan and key plans that the adjacent properties have either an addition or patio, which increase the lot coverages of those properties to be a similar size as what we're proposing. 155 Palm Drive to the west of 153 has an addition, which is similar to the size of the proposed roof, and an existing patio for the lot. And 151 Palm Drive to the east has a patio space that practically mirrors the proposal for our lot.
Okay, thank you for that. Members, if there are no other questions, can I get a motion on this? Motion from Member Bartolo.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. Given that it's an existing non-conforming use and it's just putting a cover on the existing hardscape, I'm going to put forward a motion to approve this application.
Okay, motion from Member Bartolo to approve this application, as is seconded by Member Manning. All those in favor? This application has been unanimously approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Members, this ends our morning session. For those waiting online, we're very sorry. We had some delays this morning. Our members do require a break. See you back here at 3 o'clock, everyone. Thank you.